last week in episode 8, our cast of characters had gone to the deal with the red sashes, had made the exchange, had settled upon a price of what is known in game terms as 8 coin, but in character is 2 large strong boxes filled with silver. After there was much, sort of conversation and dialogue, the characters, it being their first time negotiating for a price, ended up experiencing different struggles and things of that variety. But together as a group, they were able to overcome that specific obstacle, and they were able to talk the price from what it was earlier in the conversation to a almost double. I just want to remind the cast of that, is that you basically got double what they originally had agreed to pay you. And so that was very well done by the cast. I think that was really great. After that, the crew had discussed where they might go in the future, what they would like to do. After much conversation, in which not everything had been sort of set in stone, the crew decided that their next best step would be to establish a territory, to establish a place that was their own, and to try to build from the ground up. Their idea was to find a place potentially in Dunslow, a district of town that is known as the most destitute and poor district in all of Duskfall. It is the place of Ironhook Prison. It is the slums, the absolute slums. It is the place where people struggle the most and where the corrupt nature of the city is most powerful and is most negatively affecting the populace around it. And so their idea was, as a crew, they came to agree that they would try something new. They would try to establish themselves, perhaps. And then they would say, let's not do it the same way. Let's help build up our neighborhood. Let's help the people we care about. Let's not just be out for ourselves. And so in the future, we will see, through the hardships that are coming now, we will see. As they decided on that, they headed to Dunslow. At first, going to the Dunslow fighting pits, to a familiar person known as Marlene, one of the trainers, sort of the head trainer at the Dunslow fighting pits, and they asked for some information. The information was given to them, at least in tidbits, and a portion of the crew had decided that they would head into a neighborhood further into Dunslow, into one of its only sort of shopping districts, if it could be called that, which is very close to the Ealery farms and things like that. And to see if they could find a potential, what had been decided by Carver and the rest of the crew, a butcher shop, whether that be to buy one, to establish one, or to take one over. It will ultimately be the characters' decisions. And then, if I remember correctly, Reaper remained behind, speaking with Marlene. With all of that out there, just to double check in with the cast that I'm correct, the one question that I have, even though I believe I heard what Blinder said, but I just want to double check with him. Blinder, had you decided to go with Martin and Carver to the neighborhood or town that they had talked about, or were you going to remain behind with Reaper?
I was going to remain behind with Reaper.
Okay.
Since coming into the neighborhood, the others and Blinder has turned visibly uncomfortable, a little nervous.
Okay.
His gaze lingers over the horizon and what he can see through the buildings. He doesn't seem to quite be completely comfortable.
Okay. Okay. With that, we will now move to the scene of Martin and Carver heading into the neighborhood. It is a simple neighborhood. It is think of a sort of strip mall, just 1800s version of it. It is old wooden buildings, rickshaw with multiple layers. The places above seem like they're probably tenements, apartments, things of that variety, and the ground level portions of the building have been turned into shops. However, most of those shops are boarded up and covered. There is a oldness to them. There is a sort of not to say spray paint because spray paint doesn't exist, but there's like chalk marks on them and graffiti and things of that variety. And as you walk down the street, you notice that there is no street sign. You're walking with a young rookie, as he had been called by Marlene, who hadn't quite introduced himself in the sort of bustling of being told a task by Marlene specifically to do and guiding you to that specific neighborhood. Eventually, you arrive and you see a very rickshaw street sign. It is more so just an old piece of wood that is hung up on a light post, basically hanging from twine or rope of some variety. And what it says on it is Pond Street. As you and the young man approach, he, out of nowhere, finally now no longer looking for it, turns around to you and, in a sense, welcomes you to this neighborhood. He's like, "Welcome to Pond Street," he says. And then he starts pointing out different shops. And as you are listening to what he's saying, you're not even really paying attention, really, because this entire desolate place is set before you. Almost every business is closed down. Those that remain seem like they have very little foot traffic. The buildings and windows are broken out in places. There's more, in a sense, homeless or street people that are walking around or sitting than there are actual customers. It is obvious to you that although this may be what had been said one of the nicer neighborhoods or the sort of well-to-do for Dunslow, that this is still very, very far removed from the established buildings that you had experienced in Night Market, Martin, and you as well, Carver, and in other districts of the town. He's sort of walking backwards away from you while he says this, and then as he notices you're not paying attention, he just sort of like turns around and as I had said, he's describing those things, and then as he waits for you to like pay attention to him, he's like, "Hey, wait, you guys said you were looking for a butcher shop?"
Yeah.
Okay. That place, oh my God, is down the street here a little bit. And so he starts guiding you down the street, and then eventually you come to, once again, and basically a seemingly closed down and abandoned building. The sign that once said "Oh my God" vibrantly in paint up above it, think of like old timey general store sort of sign, is chipped and broken. It's been destroyed by rain and wind. It's almost impossible to even see the full name. If he hadn't said it, you probably wouldn't have even been sure what it had said at this point. But because you're aware of the name, you're able to be like, "Oh, okay, I see it." There are boards across the window. It seems like when he approaches the door and starts to jiggle it, it's locked. There doesn't seem like there's anyone inside. As you set your perception to the city more, and now you're focusing more on a micro level, you realize that, as I had said, many, many businesses are closed. But there is one business that you notice down the street that seems to have quite a bit of foot traffic. Or at least it seems to have less street people nearby it. And those people who do sit nearby seem like they're not, to say well-dressed, but they're definitely not ragged and haggard like you had seen some of the other street people here. They seem to be wearing at least mediocre workforce level clothing. Most of it is clean. A few of them are sitting outside, and there occasionally is a person that walks inside or outside. From where you're standing, though, you can't quite see the name of the shop.
Kind of ask the person who came with us, what's with the party down there?
Oh, that place?
Yeah.
That's something new. I don't know. They've been building for a short time there. It looks like they might be open soon, though. I don't even recognize those guys either, though.
Hey, Carver, you think it'd be a good idea to go check it out, or are you content with the the butcher shop.
Carver will kind of shoot Martin that like a look that he intends to kind of obfuscate from the kid, the rookie, of
Okay.
like, no, this is not okay with me. But yeah, we're gonna go down and investigate.
Okay. So you both go walking down the street. Are you crossing the street to the side that it's on, or are you staying on the side that you're currently on? Because you had this sort of, you were on one side of the street and you were looking down the street and you could see it there. Beset by old broken cobblestone across the street, dirt in most of it, rain slowly falling down. Are you approaching, as I said, crossing the street, or are you just walking along this side of the street until you get in front of it to look at it?
Well, I'm going to cross the street.
Okay.
Yeah. Head on down.
Okay.
Okay.
So you both cross the street, heading that direction. As you approach, quite a few of the street people sort of get out of your way. You are both dressed much nicer than the other people that walk around on the streets. And as you approach, you see that there's a small table set out, and that is where you saw those people sitting. There is 3 of them, a man and 2 women. They're wearing what seem like workers' clothes of some variety, but they are rugged clothing. Even so, it's still much cleaner than the rest of what you've seen around. You presume they were probably, or still are, some form of labor force, perhaps working in factories or as engineers or something of that variety, something, heavy duty with their hands, or perhaps some sort of labor work. As you approach, one of the women immediately notices you, and even notices you before you're walking on the street. Like, it seems like she's looking at you. Her head is turned. She's facing you. She's glancing towards you and then looking back to her conversation, glancing at you, looking back to her conversation. Carver definitely noticed this in the posture. It seems like she's sizing both of you up. As you
She look
get
familiar?
She does not look familiar at all, no.
You want to handle this one, or should I? You'd probably be better suited for it.
All right. I'll walk up to her.
Okay, to the 3 of them at the table?
Yeah.
Okay. So you walk up to the 3 of them at the table?
Yep. Howdy. I was looking to get some information about this place.
They sort of eye each other and then look at you. What sort of information are you looking for? Says the female that had been eyeing you up.
Well, I mean, it's a new place. I've never seen it before. I was just wondering what kind of a place this is.
This is going to be a fish packing shop. Take the eels, process them, and then move them out.
Well, I seen you staring from across the way, so I figured I might as well come over and make an introduction.
Who are you?
I'm Carver. And I'll hold out a hand in a handshake kind of a way.
She'll reach up and shake your hand. Are you a local? To be honest, you and your friend don't look like you're locals.
No, not really.
I see.
New to the area, looking for some prospects. I don't think that we've quite found what we're looking for yet.
I see. Well, give it a couple days, and if you're looking for some fine eels, you know the place to come.
I do indeed. Strange, I didn't catch your name, by the way.
My name is Eddie.
Eddie?
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. This is Joe, she says, pointing to the other woman. And this is Larry, pointing to the man sitting there with them.
I'll extend a hand for a handshake with each of them. Nice to meet you.
Joe will reach up and shake your hand. Larry will just nod at you. For you specifically, Carver, because being more familiar with your character's personal history as a butcher, having it been sort of a career choice that you had made when you had broken away from your family at times in order to sort of make your own wealth away from your family's sort of history and connections and things of that variety. You do notice that there is a sort of roughness to Larry's hands. There's stains of blood on them. They can only be described as probably the person who was cleaning the fish. You can see tucked underneath his jacket are two blades. One very long, almost tool-like, that would be more of a hacking blade, something meant to chop big pieces. And another one that is more similar to sort of a paring knife, a knife precision meant to gut fish or something of that variety. The fact that he's wearing them on his belt when he doesn't seem to be wearing the normal clothes, like, the sort of smock and things that you would wear when you're doing, like, butchery or fish sort of work, presumably means that he's uncomfortable. It's obvious in the way he holds himself. He almost seems like he thinks at any point in time you're just going to reach over the table. He has this sort of unease to him. He's not unsteady, in a sense, or nervous, but it's more like he's just preparing for the worst. And he nods at you when you go for the handshake, not reaching all the way across the table. But he keeps his hands set on his, sort of like sitting on his stomach, almost as though, and you've seen this before, being a man who uses knives yourself, if he needs to, he can quickly pull those blades out.
All right. Fair enough. Anywho, figured I'd stop by and see what all the hubbub and make acquaintances if possible, which now I have. Anything you'd like to ask, Martin?
I'm just wondering what's their secret.
Secret?
They seem to be, y'all. I mean, you guys seem to be running a pretty tight ship. Things are moving. They're real active at this location. Just wondering what it is you're doing that's keeping everybody moving, because I don't know. Looks intriguing.
Are you looking for a job or something? Says Eddie.
Not a job exactly. Just trying to make sure we're not stepping on toes.
Oh, I see. Well, presumably as long as you don't fuck with our shop or our people, you shouldn't be stepping on our toes.
Is there a good way to identify your people?
Oh, there's the three of us and there's three more. We usually hang out around each other.
All right. Fair enough.
Well,
I think that does it for me. My name is Martin, by the way, just to make sure we don't have any questions about who was here.
Sure. Nice to meet you, Martin.
Pleasure to meet you as well.
Eddie and Joe both reach over to shake your hand. If you're reaching your hand out.
Oh yeah, he'll extend his hand, and when he does the handshake, he does like the two-handed, like,
Sure.
strong handshake.
So I presume at that point you guys are turning to walk away, or is there more to be said?
well. I wish you all the success. Seeing as you're startup. I myself am looking to start up my own little venture. I'm glad to have met you.
Sure.
Yeah. Wish you the best.
Same to you, friend.
Take it easy.
And we walk off.
Okay. And with that, we'll move over to Reaper and Blinder back at the Dunslow fighting pits. Marlene had stopped the training, sent the recruits, trainees off to run laps, as I had said last week. Stepping aside with Reaper for a moment, she's like, was there something you wanted to talk to me about or anything like that?
No, just updates on Aldo, how he's doing.
Oh, sure.
He's stable and
Yeah,
doing well, thankfully.
yeah.
But other than that, we're just trying to make our niche in the world.
I see. How far away is Blinder at this point? Is Blinder standing nearby, or did he walk off?
Blinder's pretty close. He's kind of forlorning looking, uneasy and forlorn, looking out like a window or a door or however he may be able to peer outside. He looks to seem like he wants to go somewhere, but he's not, and then, he's staying very near Reaper,
Sure.
though. Like,
So he's like very close while she's talking to Marlene.
yeah.
Okay. Could we get some privacy? Marlene will say, noticing how close you are.
I'm sorry.
I mean, no offense to you. I don't know you, and kind of want to talk to Reaper.
No problem. Good luck with the matches. Walks out.
Okay. You can go grab some food over there if you're hungry, Marlene says as you turn and sort of walk away.
Yes. I believe. Yes. And walks over and pretends to look at the food for a second, picks something out without really even paying attention to what he grabbed, and then walks
It's the
out.
mushroom. It's the mushroom mash with rat meat that I described last week.
Oh, glorious.
Yeah, breakfast of champions.
Yeah.
Lean protein and carbohydrates.
Mm.
So as Blinder walks off, Marlene sort of takes a seat on like a group of pads or like a bench or something like, something nearby where people might rest or that sort of thing. And kind of draws Reaper in close for a second so they can talk a little more private, that idea. So I don't want to get into your business, Reaper, but are you working for Brill now?
No, we had a job.
Oh, okay. Because that guy you were with, whatever his name was, he was working for Brill. So I thought when you were saying you're a crew, that meant that you were working for Brill now too.
No, we're independent right now.
Okay. Can I ask something? And
What's
just
that?
be really honest with you? Why are you trusting that Martin guy? I mean, I know Martin from way back. And him and I do not see eye to eye on a lot of things. So I'm just surprised to see you with him.
I don't know much of his background. He's had my back,
Really.
so I have to trust, yeah.
Just be careful around him, will you? I mean,
Well, is there any particular reason why?
the guy's a snake in the grass, He might seem all nice and everything, but he's got a sordid past, we'll say. And because of that past, it's hard for me to want to trust him.
I see.
I mean, you're your own person. You make your own decisions. But I'm just worried. I mean, is it money? Is that why you're not wanting to fight anymore and you're doing this whole crew thing? Like, do you want to up the purses or move up in the fighting
No.
thing? Like,
I'm trying to make the world a better place. A neighborhood at a time.
so you guys are some sort of street cleaners now or something?
Getting there.
So that's why you came to Dunslow then? Okay. Well, I mean, you couldn't have picked a worse place to start. I mean, the town district, in a sense, could really use it. But, I mean, it's going to be an uphill battle. Dunslow isn't the way that it is just because money isn't here. It's simply that those people who make it move away. Those people who find success don't want to be here any more than they have to. You know, we don't really see a whole lot of well-to-do shoppers around here. Unless,
Fair.
you know, it's blue coats you're talking about or something like that.
Well, maybe we can change that. Maybe not soon, but eventually.
Yeah. Hold up a second, Marlene says. And at that point, Blinder, you had noticed this because you had been away from the conversation, but you had seen some blue coats a ways down in a carriage, and they drove up, and they're driving up, and you see them get out of the carriage, and they walk basically into the pits and start walking through them, and they seem like they're sort of heading right for Reaper and Marlene. You have enough time, if you would like to respond beforehand, because they're still walking here. So,
Okay, Blinder will do an about face.
Okay.
And come scurrying in a hurried walk, you know, like not trying to cause attention to himself.
Yeah.
And walk up to interrupt Reaper and Marlene. It's like the blue coats are here.
So basically, we'll say in the conversation, that's when that happens. So, you know, Marlene was about to say something, and Blinder comes in and he says that the blue coats are here. So,
there's two blue coats, and they're coming. They're coming.
We should probably go.
They're going to be here.
Bye.
Where are you going? No. Marlene looks over and is like, "That's just Velk. Don't act suspicious. Just go to the barracks, chill out, have some food, act like you're part of the crew. Shouldn't be a problem."
Okay.
Just go that way. She says, pointing
come on.
behind her towards one of the barrack building.
I will go that way.
Okay. Blinder follows?
Pulling Blinder with me.
Oh, you're pulling him with you? Okay, perfect. So you both go off into the barracks, and in the distance you see an older gentleman, not the same blue coat you had met before, but you in fact see that blue coat waiting almost respectfully at the carriage. Another blue coat is next to this man. This man is older, bald. He has a thick, bushy, gray beard that comes down his face. He has weathered features. His skin is almost kind of leathery, but he's still very pale. Not like gaunt pale, but just like pale, like not in the sun a lot kind of a thing. Obviously, because the sun is almost non-existent. He's a heavy-set man, but he's not overweight. You can tell that he takes care of himself, or at least he's on his feet all the time. So he's that sort of body where it's like he's obviously well-built. He probably doesn't exercise all the time like the fighters and things like that here at the pits do, but he definitely isn't a slouch. He's wearing his uniform completely bells and whistles in a sense, to where he's like every button is done right, everything is set perfectly, military fashion, that sort of thing. Whereas that blue coat you had seen before, just as a reminder, had sort of had their collar unpopped, they were relaxing, they didn't really care. And you notice that all the other blue coats are the same way. When the man speaks, there's this sort of authority to his voice, and you can see it from the distance that you're at. He seems like he's trying to be nice. There's this sort of Marlene, you know, welcome. They don't hug, but they shake hands. Marlene shakes his hand, and you hear her say his name. They engage in a conversation, and then Marlene looks at him like with this face of like, wait, what? And he's like, he gives her this sort of face like, that's just the way of it. And she holds up a finger and then walks back into another building real quick while that man waits. and then comes back with her purse. You recognize it, Reaper, as her purse. It's basically, it's not like a purse. It's basically like a bag that she hides away and holds a lot of her winnings and things in it. And she comes back with the purse and takes out a sack of coin, a big sack of coin, and then hands it to him. You, at this point, can presume whatever the payment is for. But after he takes it, he nods to her. He makes a few comments that you can't really catch, pointing at some of the fighters and things like that. You presume he's probably saying something to the effect of, looking good out here, or something like that. And then he, after a short time of like saying hello to people and things like that, just sort of walking by them, but most of them are giving him a face like they're like, who the fuck are you? He just eventually walks back to the carriage. The man, the blue coat that you had met, a week ago or wherever it was, opens the door for him. He steps up the stairs into the carriage. The door is shut behind him, and slowly off it goes. And Marlene just disappears back into the building, presumably hiding their purse again, or putting it back in whatever sort of storage or locker or thing that they have, and returns back outside. And then minutes later, whatever the case may be, the coast is clear, the blue coats are completely out of sight, and you are left once again now at the Dunslow fighting pits. Go ahead.
I heard Marlene refer to him as Velk. V-E...
Yes. V-E-L-K.
That was abnormal. Was it?
Who are you saying this to? To Reaper when you guys were in private? Okay, sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
That was abnormal. Does that happen all the time?
No, it does. That was an extortion. And that guy that extorted her, it has to be a high rank.
I see. Perhaps.
Well, I'm gonna go ask
her. By all means.
I'll walk down there.
So you walk back over to Marlene?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ezra will follow, like,
Sure.
oh, she's gonna hit me. Like, we're gonna talk to her again.
Yeah. So you walk up to Marlene as she's walking out of what is one of her more personal barracks sort of places where she ends up staying. And a lot of the more seasoned elite fighters and those that stay in the barracks stay, people that she trusts. You were one of them when you stayed here. You would stay there, that sort of thing. Not the green behind the ears rookies stay in different buildings just because she doesn't know if she can trust them yet.
Yeah.
So she's walking out as you guys see her and walking up to her. And she's like, hey, what's up?
What was that all about?
Well, I mean, I've talked to you about how I go have a conversation with Velk before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually he doesn't show up here. That was really weird.
Did he mention why or allude to perhaps?
How much do you trust this guy?
Not
with
at
my
all.
life.
Really? Okay.
Or with your life.
I'll speak freely. That's fine. I don't own this place. You know that, right?
No, I didn't know.
Velk owns this place.
Oh.
And the only way that I can keep business here running and coin in people's pockets is if I pay out the 2/3 of that to Velk, the owner. That's just, the way of doing business. He used to run this place more back in the day when he would actually come into the pits, but it's been years since he did that. He's been retired, even before your time, basically. And now he's just sort of living off the land. I mean, he was a blue coat for a long time, and yeah. So, I mean, that's just the way of it. Normally, though, I go out to him once a month, and I make the delivery so that it's less of a hindrance, just because even though the blue coats have turned a blind eye to all the gambling going on here, and all the problems or whatever the case may be, generally it makes people uneasy when they see blue coats out here. So him showing up here is, I don't know why that happened. I presume. Oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
It was just. I don't want to presume your business, but perhaps it is because of the affairs that happened in Char Hollow. We had to go into hiding. it would stand to reason that if we were seen or people were looking for us and you understand, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, if people are
Sure.
looking for Reaper and they start looking here, so maybe the Bluecoats headed out here to pick up their monthly payment instead of me going and delivering it.
Mhm.
That's
But why did he come specifically here himself?
yeah. Why didn't he
Would-
send like a henchman or something, right? One of the lackeys, one of the, street patrolman, right?
Yeah.
I usually presume with Velk that everything is done for a reason. If he showed up here today, there's some reason. Maybe there's talk about someone moving in on him, or maybe he's worried people forgot that he owns the place, or whatever the case may be. I couldn't tell you. I don't know what's on that guy's head.
He was an orderly individual. People like him tend to have very firm motivations whenever they choose their actions. I would concur with your assessment, just by the looks of him, the way he dresses. Yes, he did not come here idly.
I mean, I've heard some things from some of the new recruits. A lot of them, still or were used to be part of small little one-time gangs, if you know what I mean, like doing jobs here, there, that sort of thing. They sometimes talk about how there's movements on the streets here in Dunslow, and a few of them lately have been saying like a couple new gangs have moved into town. Not, you know what I mean, not into town, but into Dunslow. And, or at least they're making moves into Dunslow. So maybe Velk feels threatened. Like when you've had hold over a place for so long, if new players come into town, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. At this point, by the way, Martin and Carver come walking back up to the pits.
Martin? Carver?
Blinder.
Blinder, how you doing?
What's up, guys?
Reaper?
How's it going?
Not. We just had an. I think Reaper could explain much more.
Oh, there was Bluecoats when we're trying to figure out who they're looking for this time.
Ah,
So apparently Dunslow is out of the question.
No.
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 There's Bluecoats
Well-
everywhere.
There's Bluecoats everywhere.
They came here looking for someone.
No, they
After
didn't.
we've been here.
They didn't come here looking for someone. They came here for a purpose, but we don't know what that purpose is. So one of the possibilities is that they were looking for someone. Then again, they could not be looking for someone and maybe looking for something.
Or perhaps it was just a display of power. Maybe Mr. Velk has some sort of motivations over the fighting pits themselves. He's not happy with the arrangement. We don't know. It is interesting and unique, and learning its motivations could be valuable, but I don't think it has anything. Well, we don't have any evidence that has anything to do with us yet.
Well, I guess that's good news. There's a new crew opening up shop where we were looking.
Well,
Not
not
entirely
exactly.
sure if
At this point, Marlene basically says, like, you guys seem busy. I'll excuse myself. I have a couple other drills I need to run with the trainees and stuff.
Good
Of
luck with
course.
the fight.
Yeah. If you
Good luck
need
with the
me,
fight.
you know where I'll be, Reaper.
Okay, thank
nice
you.
talking to you again, Blinder, she says, and then she walks off.
Marlene?
She doesn't even respond to Martin.
I'll just kind of give her a wave.
Interesting. There's a history between you and her, Martin?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Is this going to complicate affairs?
I mean, not if I don't have to do business with her directly.
I see.
I mean, if we're living in the same area, that's not the same as working for one another.
Too true. Back to the... There's somebody who's set foot in the place we wish to set foot.
Yeah. Not directly, but really close.
Are they...
They're also in the same business, more or less.
Oh, I see.
They said there's 6 of them. We could go acquire new members.
They have more of a foothold than we do. Acquiring them would mean that we would have to set up.
Why don't we race them?
Race them for setting up?
Yeah. Do we want this?
They already have a pretty good head start. They're already rolling. They're already doing their own thing.
Well, where there's room for one, there's room for many, right?
I mean, I suppose that depends on how positive your outlook on this part of town might be.
There's a lot of work to be done here.
There is a lot of work. Especially if we're supposed to be lifting members of the community.
I think that we should learn as much as we can about these individuals. Because if we do decide to race them, as it were, or compete in some fashion, well, they would be have the opportunity to instigate against us. But that could also...
They are wary. And they have one particularly paranoid individual among them right now. And if I'm correct about my assumptions, well, the way he carried himself, he knows exactly where to cut.
I see. Well, Blinder will look at Reaper, and Carver, and then at Martin in like a just kind of like a, assessing their physical. I believe we have quite enough cutting skills right here. I can label them after their cut. I am good at writing and cataloging.
I say we go for it.
Well, I'm down to go for it as well. Just know that we'll be stepping on toes more than likely.
I like stepping on toes. It makes them bend over and then I can punch them in the face.
I prefer knees, but same point. Of course, most of the time I don't have to reach out. You have to call in a favor?
Well, we might need to call in favors. If we're going to set this up quickly, we might need the help of any contact we have.
I know no one. If you want an army of panhandlers, I can think of a couple people. But nothing beyond that.
Well, what better way to get information than from panhandlers?
Right? They see everything.
They do see everything.
It's a joke. I don't really know anyone, unfortunately. But I can well, I suppose I could try to find someone. I did live here once. It's been a long time, of course. Somebody who might be able to ask around, those sorts of things.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
I'm not the most skilled at networking, though.
I have a feeling you'll make it work.
Why don't we all pool our tasks together at trying to acquire and purchasing the store? Did you say they were there in the store that we were wishing to acquire?
No, down the street.
Just down the street. Okay. Well, let's let me broach business offer. It's currently occupied, yes?
I didn't see a single soul there.
Does that crew know that we're a crew?
I alluded as much to them, so if they didn't understand the message, then...
Why do you keep telling people our secrets?
That's not a secret.
Well, they didn't need to know, because if they didn't need to know and they didn't know, that would have given us more time to set up.
It's going to be very obvious very quickly what we're doing.
Right, but not beforehand.
Yeah, I don't think they knew. I don't think we said anything too much.
I suppose I will try to arrange the purchase of the place and the information and the rest of the details about how to intimidate these people. I'm quite certain on to approach that, unfortunately.
We'll get there when we get there. Okay, so who do we have to go to purchase a building?
Typically City Hall.
My character's an academic of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that like he would know know about?
Sure. Knowing your specific history, I would say that you would be somewhat familiar with deed and title and the way that it works.
Okay. And so you just go to City Hall to officially get it, or is it like you walk up and you purchase it from the person and they sign over the lease or whatever?
Yeah, that's especially in the poorer district, that would probably be the more appropriate way that it would work. If you're in a very, very nice district of town, then there's more pomp and circumstance. There's talking to City Hall or to the Ministry of Preservation, by the way, is the term that you guys are looking for.
Gotcha.
For City Hall. That's basically the council, is basically the people who make decisions, and there are people that work underneath them, the magisters, etc., who oversee different things going on within the city itself, and those are all ruled over by the Lord Governor himself, who lives on White Crown Island, right? And so in the poor districts, though, like Dunslow, Blinder, it would probably be more of a deed and title sort of thing. As long as the deed or title was signed over to you, etc., or to your whoever you are, then you have ownership of it, as long as you can prove that that's who you are, right?
Okay.
In a sense of like who holds the deed is the owner kind of a thing, in that old style way, right?
Since they haven't seen me, I can try to find this individual. I don't know these streets well. Do we know by chance who owned the shop? Like just the name, or? I mean, I could poke around, I suppose, but I'm not. I would like to have perhaps somebody come with me, because if I'm seen, then
I'll go with you.
Okay.
I don't think these guys have anything better to do.
And
Well, I mean, finding my cousin is important, but I don't have a whole lot of evidence to go on right now.
No,
I have
I
no
meant
leads.
short term, not long term.
Oh. Yeah, I got nothing else going on right now.
I could show you a place.
okay. So I suppose at that point we're gonna go do some gathering of information about
Sure.
who and where this person who owns this building might be.
Sure.
Basically Blinder will poke around his old neighborhood
Okay.
and see if he can find anybody who, I mean, we never established where in Dunslow it is.
It's in the edge of the ghettos.
Edge
Is
of the
where
ghettos.
the sort of soup kitchen place that you had been in, however long ago it was now. That was the one that you had been near, was in the edge of the Dunslow ghettos, basically.
I was talking about when he was a kid, unless am I misplacing? I don't remember now. I can't pull up my background, but
The city has changed since you were a kid.
mhm.
Right? There's the rise and fall and dilapidation of neighborhoods and things like that. So the neighborhood that you had lived in as a child still existed. However, it has changed. There are different people and different families, and some of the buildings are gone, and some of the buildings are new. And there's this sort of ever changing thing as the years go by. Especially in a place like Dunslow, where being destitute and poor means that life expectancy is short or low.
It's a lot of itinerant individuals, wandering individuals.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'll stop by the soup kitchen area and that sort of area, see if he recognizes anybody he happened to strike up a conversation. Not many people, obviously, but anybody he might have maybe panhandled in the same place.
Sure.
His time.
And all of you are going with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, real quick, just fixing the background music is a little loud. So you all head to that section of town, to the edge of the Dunslow ghettos. This is, as I had said, the entirety of the district is suffering, and this is the place that suffering is most evident. People are crammed into tiny little homes and houses. Businesses barely exist. The vast majority of people without homes are, in fact, here, walking amongst the street, panhandling, whatever the case may be. It is an absolute sort of chaotic combination of all of these people being crammed into such a small place and having so little to go on with so little resources that they basically can only manage as best they can. The streets are dirty. There's this sort of grime to them where people basically, you presume, throw out their toilet water or basin water out into the streets or alleyways, and the rain sort of sloshes it into the street. There was a nickname for this portion of town, for one of the main roads that Blinder would know. It was known as Green Street, from the collection over time of all of this nasty rainwater and things like that eventually stains the actual cobblestone itself, this sort of like dark green. There's a smell in the air, like food and bowel movements and sweatiness and just all of the worst smells combined. And it is just, it's a rough thing to see for those of you that have lived in a much nicer place in Duskwall or even outside of Duskwall. It's even Charhollow compared to this is far, far nicer. But it seems like people manage, right? It seems like people are doing the best that they can and are trying to survive.
Well, I think this, yes, there's several people who I believe tend to reside around here. Oh, I'm sorry. You might want to cover your nose.
Okay.
Is it just me, or are you more nervous than
noticed.
usual?
Pardon me? Say again?
Is it just me, or are you more nervous than usual being here?
Not nervous. I grew up around here. It is a lot of painful memories. And you see that building there, just down off to the left. It kind of peeks through. The one with the well, I think it's copper roofing. He looks like an old. It just below there, under a bridge, is a where my home used to be a small wooden shack. So yes,
You prefer not to be here.
No,
You don't have to be.
It's probably about the last place I would expect to be looked for, and it's also partially my motivation. This place, when it is easy to have pity for the poor, but hard to see what it does to their souls. And I think a good example can hopefully make them not so hungry. Yes, anyway. I do, that individual over there, I believe, yes, he was always standing in front of the more prominent businesses. He seems to know quite a few people. He always did very well with handouts. I believe he might know, perhaps. Do you want me to roll, Michael? To see how efficiently I gather information?
It would be a fortune roll.
Okay.
Is the way that it works.
Sure.
So are you guys using any contacts or allies in order to help you gather information here? Have you been given any sort of like, oh, hey, check out this thing here? I'm going to say, specifically speaking, that because this is your experience blinder, are you going to be the one rolling, or is someone else going to roll? Or actually, it's a fortune roll, so I roll it. So, I don't know. I'm going to say that it's the group that's doing it, and that because you are from here and you have contacts, I'm going to say that you're, in a sense, assisting the group, because normally what it says is that if you receive information from a contact or ally, it basically assists your roll. And Sadly, there's no other contact or ally assisting your role, but you have enough history and information here to be able to do that?
Sure.
Is there something on your mind there, Reaper?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
you just had...
I was thinking of my contacts and allies and then realized that Marlene is my contact.
Yes.
So I could...
Yes.
Marlene.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
I don't know if they exist here. But Flint? Does Flint live in Dudslow?
No, Flint is in the 6 Towers. Okay. So you're able to ask one portion of information.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, two. You're able to ask 2 questions. Is the way that this basically works. Is like you guys basically spend the next amount of time, minutes, hours, whatever the case may be, going around town, talking to panhandlers, doing all these sorts of things. And basically the way that it works in order to speed this sort of leg work up, the way that Blades in the Dark works is if you want to go into the specific scenes, which we will go into that information here in a second. You can. And however, if you want to sort of speed up some of the legwork, what you can do is you can provide the players basically, like I'm doing now, saying these are the things that you do, and these are the questions you're able to ask, and they will be answered. And so we will do that process, and then, of course, because there's more interactions and things like that, I presume to come from this. So based on the fortune roll, you will be able to ask 2 questions.
Anybody got the first one? I can think of one.
And keep in mind, these questions and answers aren't like a genie in a bottle, like to where if you ask something, I'm gonna trick you and like be like, well, you didn't ask the right question. You know what I mean? Like it's presumed that I this is information you would have gathered from people and things like that. So there will always be that sort of thing. What is it, Reaper?
I have a question before we ask.
Oh, before you ask your questions. Okay, what's up?
Before we ask our questions, I wanted to discuss with Blinder that I have a question. So my question would be perhaps what type of work this crew does, or a name. If we can get a name, we can get more information.
Which crew?
The crew that is operating the what?
The rival crew.
One on Pond Street?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I
haven't asked that yet. I'm asking Blinder if he thinks that's a good question to ask.
Well, keep in mind, this isn't like you're asking an NPC this question, he's answering you. This is like a combination of all the different conversations you've had over the few hours that you're looking around, and you catch a bit of a conversation here. Someone says something like, oh yeah, we heard this new gang moved into Pond Street. And then this person over here says, yeah, I heard they had a weird name, and it's this sort of like thing that you combine all this information you gathered, and then with all of those things combined, it's the answer to the 2 questions, right? So right. It sort of combines in your mind, it is the way to think about it, right?
Okay. I know at least one of the questions should be where we can find the owner of the I want to say the exotic guild last.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Where we can find the person who holds the title.
You want to find out who owned Oh My God?
And where we can find him, I guess. I don't know if or one.
You can get their name for sure, but people give you a general location, but aren't going to be able to tell you exactly where they are.
Okay.
Their name is Hollis Wheeler, and they presumably live closer to Pond Street, nearby the Eelery Farms.
Okay, next question. Or was that 2? Both.
No, that was 1. You still get another question.
What is the capital of Assyria?
Oh, you just lost your last question. No, I'm just kidding.
Red, no blue. Ah! All right.
What do you guys think? What other questions should we ask?
let's ask your question about the gang. Like,
Yeah.
what can we?
What kind of jobs does the people? What kind of area? What kind of work does the other group do?
Do we want that question or do we want the name?
I think they'll tell us the name, like eventually.
Well, the name, I'm going to say the name is a question. Because if you don't know who you're talking about, no one can answer your questions, right? If you say that gang, there's a lot of little tiny street gangs. I want to remind you of that little tiny one-timer job here and there, or little like tier 0, tier 1s are always trying to come up in the world, right? So there's always a lot of different, especially in Dunslow, there's a lot of different gangs and things like that, all trying to make a rep for themselves, but most of them either fall apart, get killed, get wiped out, get absorbed into another gang, you know, not to say grow up, but maybe move on to a different line of work. Like, so saying, hey, that gang, you know, is not going to, people aren't going to know what you're talking about. But if you were like, hey, we heard about this gang that's in Pond Street, you guys ever heard of them? You know, that would give you like their name and probably a little bit of information about.
Well, then definitely I'd like to learn their name.
Okay.
If that's something that we can learn.
Sure. Yeah. The name that you get is they are called the Toads. They are a small-time crew that apparently came out of another district of town a short time ago. People presume that they're connected because they don't dress like Dunslow people. They don't act like Dunslow people. They're standoffish. They're not trustworthy in a sense of like they're not like welcoming to the people. You even hear a few conversations about people having had experiences with them who live near Pond Street, and talked about that they have come by basically saying, so, hey, we're moving into the area and just want to make you aware that you're going to pay us, or we're going to, you know, smash your windows in, or, you know, we're going to put you out of business, or, you know, so there's a lot of threats going on. There's a lot of, they're trying to throw their weight around. It seems to be what the case is, yeah.
So it seems to me that we have our first job.
I think in order to get paid for this job, we should probably go to the people who they are trying to extort and ask them what it's worth.
So have them pay us for getting rid of a problem?
Or if we could make some sort of an alternate arrangement that is much more to the extorted's satisfaction. I much prefer a equitable relationship with our neighbors.
Okay.
Yes, but I agree. We have our first job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask if I could hurt them, but it seems like we're already going to get the chance. So.
Well, I'd hope we get the chance after hearing that little bit.
I'm
Wasn't
excited.
our goal to uplift the community and not to oppress it?
Well, I mean, no one here is going to believe. Well, one, people here won't believe that you're helping them, even if you are trying to help them. And two, even if they do accept that help, they were more than likely, because of the state of the neighborhood, people are more than likely to turn on you. So I think if we approach this from a standpoint of making equitable relationships and then proving that trust and making it in the incentivizing those we work for to continue working with us and not betray us, I think that is a long way. That will go a long way further than just simply robbing from the rich and stealing from the poor, so to speak. Or the other way around, yes.
Robbing from the rich and stealing from the poor? No, I like that.
Or let's not steal from the poor.
Yes. That's not.
You gentlemen are certainly talkative tonight.
Yeah.
Say,
I got a lot on my mind. I'm really worried about my cousin, and I don't know where to go.
well, this is a first step in the right direction. If we can get more jobs, we can get more cash. If we can get more cash, well, silver. If we can get more silver, then we could possibly pay off the right people to find out where your cousin is. Right? That's the hope.
That's the hope.
So let's get this off the ground so that we can
yeah.
take our next step.
Well, that's I'm waiting to know what the next what we do is the next step. Do we find the guy? Do we go assault the place? Do we talk to people?
Talk to the neighbors, right? That's what Blinder suggested. We talk to the neighbors and we ask them what it's worth to them to get that monkey off of their back.
Or the toad, as it were.
Or the toad.
Yes.
Get the toad off their back, as it were.
And then we come up with a game plan.
Yes.
Okay.
So what are we looking for in exchange to take care of this problem? We know nothing about the gang, and we really know nothing about their racket as far as business owners, etc. So maybe we should start there.
Portion of their racket is actually in the eel trade. Canning and such. The movement of such goods is at least their cover.
Okay. That's a good start. Any ideas for further information?
Oh, for further information, I just walk up and punch them in the face. And generally, they tell me what I want to know.
We could explore this option. Well, I mean, you can explore. I mean, I would be right behind you, supporting you fervently as we explore this option.
Yeah. Just so that I get all the knives and you can run away.
That's the idea, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
It's not the worst idea I've heard.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm certainly for this plan.
And he just kind of looms over Blinder a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Then he leans back.
ID Blinder's quite tall.
So is Martin.
Oh, is he?
He's Blinder's actually taller, a little bit taller than Martin.
But,
I know.
Okay.
But he's still trying to loom over him.
Well, his presence.
Yeah.
It's very easy for Martin to do so. Blinder's like, Okay. So let's arrange at least some profit from this venture, or should we just go and do it and then go and offer them the alternative?
Well, we're not going to go and pretend to strong arm them. That's stealing from the poor.
No, not strong. The protection racket, or the people who are being extorted. What I'm saying is, should we just dismantle this operation?
I mean, that's one of our goals, is to clean up the streets, but no better place to start than there.
Because I'm kind of thinking that Mr. Martin's course of action seems to be the most quickly, and it might be messy, but it will be effective, and it will be public.
There's 6 of us. Or, I mean, there's 6 of them, and there's 4 of us.
Yes.
Okay. Let's do this.
I mean, whoa, come on, guys! Like,
You want to go punch people? Now's your opportunity. Let's go punch people.
Whoa! We don't know where they're at. We don't know who they are. If we don't get all of them,
True. We should.
Some of them will run and come back.
That's why we chase them down and hit them.
We should at least cursory observe and try to gain as much information before we. I believe we should make it strategic, but it will be direct.
Look, I'm not saying that I'm afraid to go get in a scrap.
No.
Been a while since I've been in a good fight.
But you raise an excellent point. If one gets away, then that is an enemy that we will have to deal with later. So we should try to pinpoint the easiest way to take them apart. And there is a numerical advantage, which is, I believe that both Reaper here and Mr. Martin, you can deal with that. And even Mr. Carver, I've seen him. But really effectively, there's only really 3 people who are capable of fighting. We should plan an attack and make sure we cut off the head and dismantle it thoroughly. In order to do that, we will need more information.
And like you said, I'd prefer to get this done.
Or we could go see if they'd work for us.
That's happen.
You knock out one person's teeth, the rest become more pliant.
How about I have a plan?
You know, I'm almost in agreement with Martin here.
My
Yes.
only concern is that unless we kill them, there's still going to be a problem that we're going to deal with later, and I don't plan on killing them.
I hadn't planned on killing anybody either. So, regardless of what happens, we're going to make an enemy out of these people. Do we want it to be a physical enemy, or do we want it to be some kind of weird, like, arch villain?
Well, we can do weird, and I'll take a look at Blinder pointedly.
In that
Martin takes a half step.
In that moment, a large hand reaches down onto Blinder's shoulder, and he hears a voice, a very rugged, deep voice, say, "Butler Quoman?"
Hello?
He turns around and he sees a grizzled man with a large beard, wearing a little bit nicer clothes, although they don't look like workers' factory clothes. His face seems familiar, but you just can't quite place it. Like, you have this sort of, like, I know you from somewhere.
In that kind of weird, sort of like, I'm going to pretend that I know him. Oh, how are you doing?
Exactly. You turn around, and he's like, "Yeah, that is you, Butler Quoman."
Long time. How are you? How are your
What do you
people?
mean long time? I saw you 2 days ago.
Well, you know,
You still owe me a tab at my tavern.
Perception thing. I don't really I didn't Mike. Yes. Mr.
Yes.
Michael. Yes, he was supposed to pay my tab.
Mr. Michael?
Or maybe it was Jack. I don't know.
Are you talking about that other guy that you were talking to, the weird squirrely looking guy with the glasses? He told me that you were paying. He even said, "This guy's got my tab," and he got up and left before you. You stood there a while, had a whole nother round, and then you left. You skipped out the back, said you were going to the bathroom, and then skipped on your tab apparently or something.
Oh my god. Yes. I apologize.
Well, sure, apologies go far, but I'd really like silver.
How much was the tab? All I have is one. Quite a bit.
It's not a full coin, but it's like it's quite a bit.
Tell me something. I was under the assumption that he had paid. But I'll pay you. That is not a problem. But he now owes me, of course. I'll have to get my repayment from him. Do you know where I might be able to find him? Do you?
He's not from around here.
I see. Okay. Well, I guess I'll just have to try to track him down again.
When I came by, if it helps you, you're gonna pay me right now, right?
Oh, yes.
And you'll pay him the silver.
Yeah.
You put some silver in his hand, and he's like, and then you put a little more silver, and he's just like,
And for your trouble.
yeah, you basically get like you have like a pretty decent sized pouch of silver in his hand. He's like, okay. I wasn't gonna ask your question unless you actually paid me, but I do remember I came by the table to serve you both drinks, and at one point when I was walking up, he mentioned a name. Haywood Withers, I think was the name, or Mr. Withers.
Mr. Withers.
It sounded like the guy knew you, though.
Well, I mean, no, how really do we know anyone? But Mr. Withers, yes. And he didn't mention anything else, did he? Other than
No, like I said, I just overheard it when I was walking up to the table.
Okay, I see.
He was talking about something he'd found in a book or something like that. He had a bunch of papers all over the table.
Oh, a book.
Yeah, Did I what?
Did you know papers? Or was he doing accounting or something? Or
I don't know. I don't read.
Oh, I see. Did it have pictures?
One of them looked like some sort of picture or something, like a rubbing, I would think. It was small, too. Very small.
Kind of rubbing. Okay. Well, that must be...
you doing okay, buddy? Do you not remember any of the conversation or anything?
Oh, I remember with perfect clarity, yes.
Oh.
I'm just, I think it's the weather,
Just having a weird day.
Just a little too much sun today,
Maybe it's all the smog. First time to Green Street?
Yes. Smells horrible.
Yeah, definitely cover your nose up.
Yes.
Well,
somebody's told me.
Thank you for paying me. You can find me, of course, at the same place, Kinghead Tavern. So.
Absolutely. We will, fine substance you serve. Yes.
It's very nice of you, but people get what they pay for. He says, chuckling like it's an inside joke between you and him or something.
Uh-huh. He'll look over at Reaper this guy sits just kind of on the sideways, be like, help me.
Anyway, seems like you're busy here. I'll take off. Thank you for paying me. Good day to you. And he
no problem.
Turns and walks away.
No problem.
Do you usually pay people that come up to you and say they recognize you?
Oh, I did recognize him. Not at first, but after a minute.
Oh.
Worth it, believe me.
Oh, and
okay.
Just a quick reminder, 2 days ago was when you were on your drug binge. Just reminding you of how those days lined up. This was presumably when you were on your bender. Apparently you went to a tavern and rang up a pretty big tab.
Cool. What was the name of the tavern?
The King's Head.
King's Head.
Yes.
King's Head. Coal rubbings.
Which is one of the few taverns in Dunslow, by the way. It's closer to Ironhook, on the other side of the ghetto towards Ironhook, and it's the reason it's able to stay in business is because it actually serves prison guards, blue coats, things like that, right? Occasionally people come in with some money, and generally it's a place of no nonsense because there's so many blue coats around, no one would really break the law. So it's able to keep a decent revenue stream, basically, but it's not a great place for crime.
Gotcha.
Unless it's blue coat appropriate crime, things they approve of or whatever.
Mr. Withers, King's Head, coal rubbings. That's what
Carver's totally just going to give Blinder that knowing look and just a pointed smile, just you know it.
Yeah, it was Apparently a lot happened that night.
Did you need me to remind you what the name was that he had said? Because he said it a few times, so people would have heard it.
Burford.
What?
Wasn't it Burford or something?
Hayward Withers.
That's the name of the person he heard you say, but I'm talking about the name that he called you.
No.
He called you Butler Quoman.
Butler Quoman.
Yeah.
Butler Quoman?
Yeah, he said it a few times. So you guys would have heard it. Like, I swore that guy said Butler Quoman. What? The fuck is Butler Quoman?
I guess it's
Butler. Where are we to?
Yeah, Butler.
Don't call me that, please.
Why?
If you
You're gonna give me a tragic story, aren't you? And then I'm gonna feel like an asshole.
No, well, I might, but I'm quite serious.
See, now I'm an asshole.
Hey, we're both assholes. It's okay.
I understand a good ribbing, but that is one particular. I don't funny.
Well, it's not up to you to find it funny. It's up to us to find it funny. Yeah, I get it.
And I will just mention, as you guys, because presumably now you're heading towards Pond Street, yes?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but as you're leaving Green Street, the last interaction that you have, Blinder, is one guy's like, Butler Quoman! And gives you one of those like, hey! Sort of things. And a few people are like, hey, that is him! You know, like they know you or something.
Like, hello? Yes.
You look like a popular guy around here.
Well, Xylus, you were cutting out there. What were you saying, bud?
I was like, no. After you, Mr. Quoman.
Okay.
Okay. So just a quick... just like, okay, bye. Awkwardly walking away. Yeah, that's totally fine. A quick thing, you guys can continue to roleplay because we still got about 7-ish minutes until we start the break. Was there any place you guys were heading to before you were going to be heading towards Pond Street? Because I know there's a bunch of things talked about how you wanted to move your plan forward. Some people had said, well, we could just go there. Some people said, let's do some research. Is there a specific place you want to go or something like that you want to do, so that I'm aware of what we're going to be planning when we come back basically from the break?
What do you think, guys?
I'm on board with Martin's idea.
I mean, if we're down for that, let's get down for that.
Yeah, I'm down with Martin's idea too.
So your plan is to just walk into the shop and just start fighting people?
No,
or
Martin.
Were you planning to do? Oh, go ahead. What?
Martin wanted to do some recon, right? We wanted to.
Oh, okay.
How many?
Yeah, find out who they are, how hard they can hit us.
Okay, so you want to do a little bit of recon about the crew before you make any sort of movement against
size
them.
up your opponent.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And how do you plan to do that recon? Are you going to be asking around? Are you going to be keeping a watch on them from a distance? A combination of multiple things? Like what are your ideas?
My plan was to kind of like pick one of them and like follow them throughout the day, go into the businesses that they go into and talk to those people.
Okay.
You know, trying to figure out who they're extorting.
Okay, sure.
I'd like to try to keep an eye from them. Oh my god, we could.
Oh, like you're gonna climb up on top of the building and then like watch their shop from there?
Or like inside the building because it's supposed to be uninhabited.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I'll do the same thing Martin was doing, and I'll do a combination of both, talking to the business owners and keeping an eye on them from Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god!
Okay, so Reaper and Carver are going to be hanging out at Oh My God on and off. Martin is planning to go around talking to people, from what I understand.
Yep.
And then Blinder. Oh no, sorry. Martin is following one of the members of the crew that he sees to try and like gain information about where they're going. That's what it was. Yes.
Right.
And then what is Blinder planning to do?
Blinder is going to grab buy some really crappy clothes, like a really crappy jacket off of somebody or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then take the jacket off and make himself look like a hobo guy. And he'll just sit across the street and panhandle all day long. You know, just like the good old days.
Okay.
And keep an eye on him. You know, just
keep an eye on who? On Martin?
No, on the toads.
Oh, like okay. So instead of being at Oh My God, you're going to be more out in the street, acting like you're panhandling, and going to be keeping an eye on them from a closer, different direction, sort of thing.
Yeah, just
cool.
numbers, what their habits are, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Perfect. We are going to, as we did with the other gather information roll, we are going to sort of quickly move through this sort of this experience here to see what we can gather. So I'm going to do a fortune roll for each of the different activities, and then I will explain and give those people an opportunity to ask questions. Of course, keep in mind that the questions you're going to ask are individual, so they're based on what your character was potentially able to perceive. So you may not necessarily be aware that the question has already been asked, but just keep that sort of thing in mind, right? So Martin, you will be able to ask 2 questions regarding the person that you follow. Reaper and Carver will be able to also ask 2 questions. And Blinder will be able to ask 1. Based on the gather information roll. Yes, Reaper.
Questions each or 2 questions as a whole?
You and Carver will be asking your questions as a group because you're working together, basically.
Okay.
Because since there was 2 of you, I actually rolled more than 1 dice for the fortune roll, because normally when you have assistance or you have a contact or something, you only get 1 dice to the fortune roll based on tier or whatever the case may be. So for you, I actually rolled 2 dice and you still got a 4, was your highest. So the both of you will be able to ask 2 questions. Blinder will be able to ask 1, and Martin can also ask 2. Keep in mind that the varying questions you might ask should be more closely associated with the task you were performing. Like, that would make sense. But if it's within the wheelhouse, I'm totally comfortable with maybe you ascertaining a little bit more information that might be outside of that specific spectrum you're looking into. So with that, we will start with Reaper and Carver, who have been sitting inside Oh My God throughout the day, going in and out, kind of paying attention to what's going on with that business across the street. A few hours pass. We'll say that, sort of most of the afternoon passes during this time that you're all performing these tasks. Several hours had already passed from the morning and etc. that you had spent, coming to Dunslow, speaking to Marlene, doing your initial sort of investigations and things like that. And so now it is much later in the afternoon and is now moving towards evening while you're performing these tasks. You've been paying attention to across the street. At one point, and this is something that keep in mind that Blinder will be aware of as well, just so I don't have to repeat myself because you're both paying attention in the same place. You both see that sometime in the early evening, a man who seems to be dressed almost like a well-to-do foreman, one would think. So sort of blue-collar clothes, less so of like a factory worker or something like that. He doesn't really seem as dirty. He seems to carry himself very well. Wearing a top hat, comes walking up to the shop, and he is greeted by the 3 people that more or less have been sitting outside for the entire day. Well, once or twice they'll walk away, grab some food or something like that, presumably walk off to use the bathroom, but more or less spend the entire day out there. There seems to be one other person who is going into and out of the shop who they chit-chat with occasionally. It is also another man. And this man that I'm specifically talking about in the top hat seems to approach them. They greet him, but he doesn't seem to hang about. It seems like he's obviously probably not part of their crew, but is instead a visitor or friend or ally of some type. He comes walking up. They share a short conversation. One of them steps inside. It's gone for a few minutes and then comes back outside and hands him a small purse into his hand. Basically kind of hiding it in a handshake sort of thing, but you can see him pull it from his pocket, and then shakes the man's hand with the top hat, and then sort of nods to him. The man nods, tips his hat to all of them, and then goes walking off. Arriving at the end of the street, he ends up getting back into what you had noticed was a cabbie carriage sort of thing, an open-topped carriage, and he gets back up into the carriage and then motions to the driver, and the driver turns around and seems to continue driving up the road, which you presume is out of the Dunslow district, is more or less the way he's heading. He's not heading further into the district, but seemingly probably towards either Silk Shore or Charhall or some other district at this point. So don't worry about that. That isn't part of your questions. That's just an additional information because both Blinder, Reaper, and Carver are paying attention to the building. That is something they would have seen. Okay, so with that, Reaper and Carver, what are the questions that you'd like to ask based on not only you watching, but I know Reaper had said that they might end up having some conversations with people and things like that. So there's a relatively decent amount of information you could have garnered from that.
I think a good question to ask, if Carver agrees, is how many tend to gather? Like, how many have we been able to keep a number on? A head count?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I probably would have pointed out which ones we'd seen prior to Reaper, just saying.
Yeah,
we
you
met those ones. These are their names.
Yeah, you point out the three, which is the two women and the one man.
But yeah, no, I agree with Reaper. Question, because we know that there's three that we haven't identified. We're trying to figure out if we can identify those ones.
Yeah.
See which people come in more frequently.
Sure.
Which people seem to be hanging about.
Yeah. There's a definite sort of ease to which you can gather this information, because as I had said before, the people that live in this area, unless they're eelery workers or farmers or something like that, who also dress in a very distinct way, like they've been working in water and things of that variety. Most of the other people just walking about the street aren't, in fact, like business owners or well-to-do. Most of them, their clothes are very dirty. They're sort of haggard. They have a distinct sort of look to them as panhandlers. And so it's very easy to identify who you presume is probably members of this crew that come nearby and the way that they interact, because they, as I had said before, their clothes are clean, although they do seem to be like factory workers or something of that variety. They definitely hold themselves better. It seems like they're well fed. And so, yes. So there was the three individuals that you had already met, Carver. There was a fourth individual that I had explained during that time that shows up and ends up coming out. There was the fifth person that came over and talked to them and then left, but you presume that probably wasn't a member of their crew based on the interaction that you saw. And then a fifth person shows up, another man. The three people that you had met, Larry, Eddie, and Joe, the two women and the man, I'd already described, which are Eddie and Joe seem to be wearing like longer trench coats over their clothing. There's obviously some sort of bundle underneath it. You presume maybe weapons of some variety. But they don't seem to have any very large weapons while they're sitting outside. The other man that I described, Larry, is the one that had the knives, and he's the one that tends to be walking into and out of the shop the most. At one point, watching from afar, especially you, Blinder, will see this, that he is actually going inside and working on stuff, and sort of like he's making calls about what's happening inside, like, oh yeah, put this here, okay, put that there, put this here, that sort of thing. The fourth man that shows up is a very large, very well-built, muscular man. Based on your time in training, Reaper, you would presume that he is probably probably a fighter of some type. Just because based on the way that he is, the sort of shape that he's in, is obvious that it's not just from, working a hard job. It seems like he has worked very, very, very hard to have an extremely well-built physique, as though to be able to presumably take punches or whatever the case may be. He also has that look to them. There's sort of that thickness of the face, like people that have taken a lot of punches in their life, that like very sturdy, that cauliflower ear, that sort of thing. Even though you're far away, when you're having these sorts of conversations based on what you're seeing, you're able to see that. And then the fifth individual shows up, and he is a very smaller, lithe-looking man who dresses above what you presume is his station. The rest of them you seem to be like workers or something, but they're wearing nice clothes. And this man seems to dress in a way that he's trying to feign more elegance, or his jacket is specifically tailored to him. There's this niceness to the hemming. The buttons are decorated and well done, like he spent quite a bit of money on it. He seems to be, in a way, ordering other people about, and then eventually a delivery arrives in the back, and Blinder sees it from down the alleyway. They end up moving the delivery, and then at that point they end up setting up a sign over the top of the shop, and the name is Welsh and Sons Butchery.
Okay, so they came in. They brought the stuff in through the back.
Right? They bring the sign in there, like a carriage comes in, like a wagon, and then they carry it down the alleyway, because there's a short little narrow alleyway between most of the buildings. They carry it down the alleyway, bring it up to the shop, bring it up. They end up getting like some ladders and things, and then basically setting it up above, and then they end up hanging it.
Cool. All right.
Okay, so to answer that question, you're able to see 5 people. You had been told the number was 6, but you never at any point see the 6th person. Okay, and so for Reaper and Carver's second question. Do you guys need a moment to think about it?
I was thinking about looking out for any sort of suspicious side thing, anything that would allude to what they might be doing on the side. If they are doing anything on the side, or if they are just honest cannery workers.
Okay. So that is the question you guys want to ask, is what is the things you've sort of heard about the jobs they might get up to?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So what you gather, and this is more of a information you gather in conversation. You're not able to ascertain all of the varying jobs they might have potentially done. But what you do gather is that they are thugs. They're absolutely strong-armed sort of thugs. They don't seem to have any sort of backing when it comes to locally, in the sense of when people have said that they've seen them have some arguments with bluecoats and things like that. Otherwise, the stories that you hear is that most of the work they do is protection, and not in a actual like, hey, we'll help you out, and then those people generously give them money, in the way that they have been showing up to businesses for the last week, 2 weeks, something like that, and they have been saying, hey, so we're moving in, and we wanted to let you know now that you will be, in a sense, paying us. Of course, this is paraphrase what you hear secondhand, but from the general gist of what you're hearing, it sounds like they more or less just barge into people's businesses and shops and things like that and say, if you want to stay in business, you're going to start paying us a portion of your revenue. Otherwise, we're going to shut you down. And it's usually in threats. You have heard stories that people have, in fact, gotten beat up, that at one point in time a message was sent in which someone was so badly hurt that they were basically left in the street and bled out and died, basically. Of course, their body was moved and to another portion of town, but it being Dunslow, this sort of crime, especially violent crime, happens quite often. And so even though, the wardens did eventually show up to deal with the dead, it wasn't like one of those they immediately showed up. What you also heard was that the Bluecoats showed up as well, asking what went on, and were paid a pretty, apparently money was exchanged. At least that's what people think, because it doesn't make sense to them that if everyone's blaming the Toads for having killed this person, that it wouldn't make sense that they didn't immediately get arrested. So people presume that some sort of payoff was done, or maybe whoever they work for paid off the Bluecoats, or something. There's some missing piece about how or why they're able to get away with whatever it is, all the things they've been getting away with. Okay, with that, we will move to Blinder, because as I said, I shared some information with him, so we can just follow up with him really quick, and then we'll move to Martin, which is sort of a different wheelhouse of information he might have gathered.
Okay, and this is like a... Okay,
this is like a what?
This is like an added character, but like this, what I
so a description of this, just to sort of re-inform the way that gather information or investigations work in this game, is that it takes the sort of legwork period, like we've seen with many other mechanics in the game. It takes the legwork period where you're out gathering information, and instead of making you role play through all those little moments, unless there's a very, very important scene that I want you to role play, it allows us to sort of quickly move through them and to give you the important information so that we can move forward in the fiction and get back into the actual story, right? Think of it like a movie. Like, you never see the guys going around and asking questions. You might see a quick thing here and a quick thing there and then a quick thing over there, right? But it's never like full-on blown-out conversations. It's just like it gives you enough information to continue the pace and story of what's going on. So, yeah, please.
I want to know if they're superstitious, or if they have they display any sort of like fear of anything. I imagine Blinder. Well, what Blinder will do is he'll pick up a black cat,
sure,
and he'll like, "Excuse me, sir, palms for the oar," and then.
Did you say? Hold on 1 second. Did you say? Oh. Did you say palms for the oar? Okay.
And then knock over a ladder, and then like the cat, shove the cat under it or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, so you're gonna go and basically like mess with them in a way.
Yeah, kind of. He'll loiter around the area a little bit.
Okay.
If they shoo him off, he'll back off. But like,
they immediately shoo him off. Like you show up with the cat and knock over the ladder, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing, guy?" And then one of them gets up into your face, like the big burly guy I talked about, gets up into your face and just starts pushing you into the street.
Okay, I'm gonna start muttering under his breath, something about like it's bad luck, that kind of stuff. I just want to basically get a sense of how vulnerable or afraid these people might be to supernatural phenomenon.
It doesn't seem like the cat in any way, shape, or form weirds them out. Mm-hmm. And because there's nothing overtly supernatural going on, you're, in a sense, unable to sort of ascertain whether or not some more real, intensive supernatural happening would frighten them. But at least for the time being, the certain situation that you have created has given you the valuable information that they don't seem to be overly superstitious. Like, a black cat. Oh, he went under a ladder. Oh, a mirror broke. That sort of thing. They more or less are focused on the task at hand. So the moment that you start fucking with their shit is when they are immediately like pushing you away. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like trying to shoo you out.
Don't kill me, sir. Don't kill me. We don't want ghosts around. And then he'll wander off.
The big guy, like when you say that, he's like, "I'll turn you into a ghost," and then it's like in a threatening way while he's trying to like push you away and stuff.
Okay. I get a sense he just he says that in a way that's not like he doesn't believe in him, or like, oh yeah, whatever, or is that just like
it's a tough guy talk? It's hard to tell.
Okay.
But I am going to point out that it seems like that they have this sort of general opinion that superstition, although ghosts may exist in some cases, that they don't seem to have any sort of overt fear of any supernatural thing that they at least have it personally encountered so far. It would be another thing if you like summoned a ghost in front of them. I mean, that completely changes the story. Yeah. But based on just the conversation about ghosts and a black cat and all those sorts of things, they don't seem shook by it at all.
You don't seem to carry any spirit bane charms or demon bane charms or anything like that. Anything obviously.
You don't see any on their person, no.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
I was speaking not of care, but I was like, damn, maybe we should have kept a jar.
Right.
And I just want to ask that voice really quick, Blinder. Was that your Butler Quoman voice? Is that what that was?
It was my
Butler Quoman.
Don't hard Butler Quoman, sir. He's just got bonds for the ore.
Bonds for the ore. I love it. I feel like that's going to become one of your like secondary aliases from now on, even though it was like a random name I pulled out of a hat.
Don't slap me. I love mayonnaise.
What? Okay. That's Blinder for you. There we go. Okay, so now moving over to Martin with that. So Martin has been following one of the members of the gang for more or less the entire day. I will mention that member of the gang leaves and then comes back time later and then leaves and goes off and does some other things and then comes back, right? And this is basically so that Martin and Carver and everyone else can be aware when they have this sort of conversation after the fact. It is the fourth person that everybody ends up seeing that Martin is basically following. And then at one point, just for you, Martin, so that you're aware, the fourth person, the man, the large man, ends up meeting up with a person that no one else has seen yet. This man is wearing like a white shirt that doesn't seem expressly tailored, but seems sort of loose on him. He's wearing suspenders. He's got, his pants being held by suspenders. He's wearing thick boots. He wears a bowler. He has his shirt rolled up, and he carries like a rain jacket that is over his shoulders, keeping his clothing from getting wet. Anytime he seems to walk inside a shop or something like that, he takes the jacket off, slings it over his shoulder, or hands it to the big man. And it seems like he's the one who is doing most of the talking anytime they go to some place. Other than the few times you see the big man walk into a place and then basically just, you see him walk inside, there's a very short conversation, and then he's handed a bag, and then he leaves. But the few times that you see them actually stay inside for a time is when this other man is with them. This other man has dark features, dark hair that is sort of slicked back. Oh, just hit my headset. That is sort of slicked back to the back of his head. And he constantly sort of plays with it. Like right before he walks inside, he always does this thing where he like slicks it back for a second and sort of checks himself in like a mirror or a basin of water, or, you know, for where the goats are fed water, or like a puddle or something. And so that you are aware, this is a different person than the person I had mentioned that was very well tailored, wearing the super, super nice jacket. This man seems to be wearing more of like worker's clothes, but he seems to hold himself very sternly. He seems disciplined. He seems controlled. Yes. So, your questions, Martin. Yeah, no problem.
I was going to ask I suppose the name of the businesses doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the number of businesses, and like I'm trying to see if it's like a route that they have set up.
It's not really, I mean, there's sort of a route, but it mostly seems like most of the businesses they're going to are all of the businesses within the Pond Street neighborhood, which is, think of it like a village of shopping centers or something like that. It's mostly businesses, most of them run down, but, you know, there are still a few that are open. Just on the specific street that you guys had walked down, Pond Street, officially, you know, because there's like one street that's called Pond Street, but then the neighborhood is also referred to as Pond Street.
Right.
Even though some of the streets have different names, you know, it's that idea.
Right.
And so because of that, there are other businesses in that neighborhood that they are going to and walking to, right?
Okay.
Think of the area as a space as like downtown, you know, of our own city, right? Like that sort of space. Like there's enough buildings and things like that it's and for a reference for the audience, what I'm talking about is like the a downtown center of, think of like several city blocks, so like 6 or 7 city blocks with different businesses on all sides of these varying city blocks. A lot of them are closed, but there are several of them that are still open. You know, there's a tailor here, and there's the fish place there, and there's the butchery there, and there's the, you know, and some of them are open, some of them are closed. So yeah.
Okay.
There doesn't seem to be any specific pattern. It just seems like they're hitting up all the shops at different times.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after I start to notice this, I would have headed into a few of the buildings,
Okay.
a few of the businesses after they left,
Okay.
because I'm trying to figure out how much they get charged, if they'll tell me that information, or if they won't, how much they'd be willing to pay to get it to stop.
Most of them look at you like, are you part of the Toads? Like, they're really confused about your line of questioning.
No, I'm not a member of the Toads. I'm a concerned citizen.
One of them will say a shop owner, like a general store. Think of that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Actually asks you after you've stopped by and you've asked them the same sort of question. He would be like, "Well, if you're not part of the Toads, why would you want me to pay you for protection? I mean, I'm already paying them for protection."
Right, but you're paying them for protection from them.
So you think I need to pay you for protection against you as well?
No. I don't like bullies.
Okay, so, but what's the difference, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make here. Whether I'm paying you or I'm paying the Toads, you're all taking my money for no reason.
Well, I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth, but at least, I don't know, I have an ambition of making this a safer place to live.
A safer place for who? For you? Or for me?
Everybody. For everyone that lives here.
So you think that by me paying you money, that you're going to make this a safer place to live? How does that help me?
Because if it becomes a safer place, more people are going to come to your business, and therefore you're going to make more money.
I mean, if you wanted this place to be safer, why wouldn't you just do it for free?
Because nothing is free. And this is not me asking you for anything at all right now. This is just me fielding opportunities. Because you and I both have an opportunity to be rid of a sore in place of actual care.
I can tell by your clothes that you're not from around here. And I would say this to you. Coming in here and trying to tell me the way that I want to live and then expecting me to pay you so that you can do basically the exact same thing that someone else is doing. I'm going to say at this point in time, I'm not paying you shit. I pay them because I've heard that if I don't pay them, they burn my shop to the ground.
Well, if I have anything to say about it, they'll be gone shortly.
And then you're going to start taking protection money? I mean, what's the difference between you and them? The devil I know.
I'm not going to burn your store down.
Are you sure? What happens when I don't pay you? What are you going to do then? What if no one will pay? Well, you think people are just going to pay the money they barely have out of the kindness of their heart? I mean, if you're going to be a force for good, some people will say, well, fine, I just won't pay you then. Thanks for helping.
Well, I'd say this is a discussion better left for people better equipped to do so.
I mean, you're here now asking the questions.
You're absolutely right. I'm here now. I'm asking the questions. and I'm trying to be civil about it because I don't like what they're doing.
Well, why don't you do something about that? You know, if people actually wanted this place to get better, maybe instead of saying what I can do for you so that you'll make it better, maybe someone should just actually make it better.
Well, again, nothing's free, and part of making this place better is covering the costs it takes to do so.
I mean, the Bluecoats came in with a big spiel. They're supposed to be the police force, right? They're supposed to be doing good, and they're a group overseen by the city, and yet all they do is take. How are you any different? You have no one telling you what to do. You have no group that I can go to and say, hey, this guy threatened me. Hey, this guy hurt me. If I can't trust the very people that are paid by the city to protect me, why the fuck would I trust you? I'm just saying.
I get it. I get it. You're upset. You're upset. You're concerned. I get it. Okay? You don't have much. I've been there. What I'm saying is that these guys are sore, and they're taking for absolutely no purpose other than their gain. I'm just saying that I know some people that have a similar mindset to mine, and after they get run out, because one way or the other, they're getting run out.
The point that I'm making
I'll be here.
The point that I'm making is that whether you get the people out of town that are forcing us to pay them, there is no difference if you're expecting us to pay you for doing the same thing.
There's a massive difference. I'm not threatening harm. I'm not threatening to burn your store down.
We could just keep talking in circles all day long,
we can keep talking in circles.
I think you're missing my point.
And I think you're missing mine.
Your point is that you want me to believe some random guy that just walked into my shop is someone I should trust. Why don't you put your words into action first? Let's see what happens.
Like I said, I've been where you're at. I know it sucks. And I'm not asking you to trust me right now. I'm just simply trying to figure out and find information. Because I know what it's like to be bullied. I know what it's like to be taken from.
I think I've told you everything I'm willing to tell you. I would ask that you leave my shop.
And that's on you. Okay. I'll see you later then. And Martin will leave.
Yeah. And so in these other conversations you have with other people, far more of them are far less hostile towards you. Most of them are actually sort of afraid of you. But you're able to ascertain that what just remind me of the question really quick, because we sort of like we went off into a variant conversation there, but yeah.
It was how much were they being charged and how much would they be willing to pay to have that gone?
They're basically being charged a coin, roughly a coin, just to use in the esoteric currency value, a coin every 2 weeks. So they're basically paying out half a coin.
Okay.
Is what at least the Toads have said they're expecting. So far, the Toads have only been around to ask for basically one round of payments. But who knows if that price will change. Okay, and for your second question?
That was both of my questions.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was the name of the businesses and owners of those businesses, which it's just the Pond Street neighborhood, and how much they were being charged.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Very cool then. Okay, so I will presume then that after hours of investigating and finding out what information you guys do, you meet back at Oh My Cod in like the back area or something, or are you meeting at a different location?
oh my god, that works for me.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
would
say,
work.
oh my god, too.
Okay, so you guys all meet at the back door that you sort of picked the lock. We'll say you spent some time, picked the lock, broke into, completely abandoned. There's boxes and things like that, but they're all empty. It's dusty in here. The windows are boarded up, but they're still letting a faint bit of light come in. You guys have sort of set up a light in the back room so people can't see it out the front. So there's enough light that you can see and talk to each other, but it doesn't go as far out into the front area of the shop. And so you all eventually find yourselves back there, and I will let you take it away.
Who wants to go first?
Reaper and I managed to track and at least 5 of them. I was wondering if anyone managed to spot the 6th.
Well, I saw one that was different than the others. He was a little more well-dressed, a little bit more well-to-do. He would walk in to the buildings, I'm assuming to do some talking and threatening. And then he'd come back out with this, like really jacked guy who, I think I want to call dibs. I think I want to call dibs on that one.
To that one.
Seem to be hostile towards anybody even approaching them. And I don't. Well, I pretty much saw the same things as you've seen. The person in the top hat. Then that's very interesting. They're obviously receiving support from outside of the part of
Who
town.
was in a top hat?
The individual in a top hat receiving a payment from one of the individuals. He left in a coach or carriage, sorry. And left Dunslow for other, presumably more affluent parts of town.
Yeah, I don't know anybody with a top hat. Well, I know several people with a top hat, but
Presume whoever they're paying off, or whoever is backing them. So,
yeah, I can tell you that they're being dirtbags. They're wandering around, extorting folks out here for money. Roughly like a coin every 2 weeks.
it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and it's just from them. And I think I asked the foolish question of how much they'd be willing to pay to be rid of them, to which I received mixed responses.
Well, how did you phrase it?
Probably wrong.
Ah,
I do not think this is a bad thing. You put the idea in their minds. Sometimes in order to coax people out of their situations, you need to at first play into the very thing. You must play a part for a time being, because that is what they need. They do not believe that anybody will come in here and just do good. So play into that. Let's go being the monster who will remove these individuals, and they'll be more susceptible to pleasing us, and we will be able to help them at that point, bring things, business, safety, keep out other gangs, hopefully. But first we have to get them to the table.
And the way to do that is by getting rid of the toads.
So this well-to-do person that Martin saw,
yeah,
we think that may be the 6th? I mean,
I
what
think so.
What I'm asking is how far up the chain do we want to bite?
I mean, if we take out all the minions and we shoo them away, what's going to stop old boy from getting more minions?
Right, but if we chomp off at old boy, then are we pissing on someone else that's bigger's shoot?
Make no
Or-
mistake that we will make enemies either way. The question is how whether or not our enemies will strike immediately, or whether or not they'll be cautious because they will respect our abilities.
Right. So what I'm asking is how big of an enemy do we want to make right off the bat? Do we want to stop at the 5 or do we want to go for the 6th as well?
I mean, honestly, I say we just go in there and give the 5 of them a good fucking whooping. And we tell them to get lost, and if they come back, they get more of the same.
So you're at 5. I like this idea.
I'm okay with 5 because that's more even numbers.
That's not an even number though.
But it's better than 6 on 4.
Oh, it's better odds, yeah.
Yeah, odds. Yeah.
During this conversation, you guys hear some sort of rowdiness outside. Not directly outside the building, but down the street a ways.
I'll
Look
go
through a hole in the window.
I'll go out there.
Yeah, for those of you that peek down the street, you see sitting out in front of what is now known as Welsh and Sons. They've set up some very bright lights, not electric lights, but old-style lanterns. Street lanterns. The street of Pond Street is very dark. Lamplighters, although have business, tend to have far less business. And so unless a business is open, they tend to not actually have lamplighters coming and lighting them. But this one very proudly has 2 lamps set out in front of it, one on the street and one right out in front of the building, so you can see very nicely like the front of the building, the shop, and the sign. Inside there are bright lights set as well. And it seems to be that there are 6 individuals silhouetted by this light in shadow, standing out in front of the shop, and they are sort of cheering and talking to each other and being rowdy. There seems to be like beverages or something in their hand, and they are drinking and cheersing to one another, laughing, enjoying their evening.
Well, I guess there's 6 then.
Well, I guess there are. Is that them?
I'll check. Does it look like them?
It's hard to tell from where you are because it's now getting into evening, and so it's now much darker. And from where you're standing, you can only really see the silhouettes of them with the light on the other side. It's hard to pick up detail. You do identify that there are 6 individuals, 1 very large, 2 average size, 1 who seems to be a bit more lithe than others, and 2 as well that are a little bit smaller frames. Dramatic strum of a guitar.
So I think it's them. It looks like them. I mean, from what I can tell.
Well, ain't no better time than the present. And
Here.
Martin will start making his way towards
As this conversation is going on, you hear some whooping and calling. Like the cheering continues on. There's this sort of like, we did it sort of thing ringing through the street. Eventually there seems to be some sort of scuffle going on. And then you hear gunshots. And screams. And as you are heading outside, you hear these gunshots. Basically, as you're like moving through the back of the building, through the door, you hear these gunshots, you hear these screams. And then as you're coming down the alleyway, you can see street people are running away down the street away from whatever was going on. At this point, I presume several of you are running.
Down from that that shop?
Yeah, it seems like they're running away.
So we have two choices here, and we have to make them right now. Either A, we run back to our own shop and pretend we didn't see shit when the bluecoats come, or more than likely they're going to pay off the bluecoats. So do we act a hero right now, or do we retreat?
How much money do we have?
A lot.
Okay, good. We can pay off the blue coats. Martin, onward.
So as you come around the street, for those of you that do, you see off in the distance, now one of them is holding a lantern up above what seems like a body sprawled out on the ground. One of the ladies is holding a pistol and is standing over that man's body. He's like, grab my ass, why don't you? Fuck you. And she spits on him as he's laying there in the street, like bleeding out. You notice this like a street person. The rest of them are sort of laughing, and then the bigger guy walks up and grabs it by the legs and starts like carrying it off towards the wagon. You see the man that you had seen, Martin, the man that seems well-to-do, but not like in that way of like he's trying to dress beyond his means. He seems like a worker who just keeps his clothes clean, white shirt, suspenders. At this point, the rain has sort of ceased, so he doesn't have his rain jacket over him. He's barking orders to them, and they carry the body off to the wagon. The big guy does. It sets it into the wagon. He seems stern for a second, like he's upset, and then sort of shakes his head and then walks inside. What are you doing?
And if we're doing this, I'm walking right up to the guy who seems a little bit well-to-do.
He's already walked inside by the time you're going to get there.
Okay, well then I'm walking up to the door.
I mean,
Or
they're in
unless there's-
front of the door. You have to walk through them.
Oh. No, I was walking up to the bigger gentleman and the more well-to-do gentleman, or whoever is inside in between me and the door.
Okay, so I'm going to make this very clear for you here for a second. You are at Oh My God down the street. They are outside of their shop. They shot a body. The big guy carries that body over to the wagon. The rest of them are still standing right in front of the shop. The well-to-do guy shakes his head and walks inside the store. So is no longer outside the shop. The rest of them are still standing outside the shop. So if you want to approach him, you would have to walk through this group of 4 or 5 people into the shop where he is now inside of it.
Okay.
But you can approach the people outside. But as I said, in order to get inside the shop, you will have to go through them. So I'm just making that very clear so everybody knows where everyone is and what's going on, right?
No,
I'll tap
then
on Martin's shoulder as we are approaching. I'll be like, I'll sneak into the I'll take care of the well-to-do men.
Oh, okay. I'll walk up to the rest of the folks that are standing outside by the wagon.
They're outside the door, but yeah.
Yeah, well, outside the door. I just kind of look over at the big guy. Set my coat down. Hey!
Well,
I think you're weak.
as you're approaching, if you're just walking towards them, because you will eventually hit the light, you're not going to be able to walk all the way up to them before they notice you. So they will notice you if you're just walking directly up to them.
That's fine.
Okay. The large man moving the body at the wagon, and the rest of the crew will turn to look at you and be like, what the fuck do you want? Get out of here if you know what's good for you.
I want him, and I point at the big guy. And I don't want just a piece. I want the whole thing. Right now.
He wants a ham sandwich.
Okay. Your funeral, guy. The big man finishes putting the body in the wagon, comes walking over to you. What is the rest of the crew doing at this point?
I am. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, actually, go first.
Yeah, I'll go Reaper first, and then we'll move through the crew. So we're not all talking.
I'm probably third in line. I'm either at the very end or towards the end of the line because I assume Martin and Blinder are in the front. I am going to circle around, trying to stay in the shadows.
Okay.
So there's the shop, right? And there's the lights.
Mhm.
And then there's the shadows that hit the lights right before it. I'm going to try to stay on that edge and fill in wherever I'm needed.
That's
So I'm
almost
holding
like
my
a building
action.
away because of how much light is out there. You're not to say a huge distance away.
Okay,
but
I
their
thought it was...
lights are in the street, so it's a pretty wide illumination of area, which is why I was letting Martin know that you can't walk up to them. The only reason you didn't see detail at the distance you were at was because the lights were on the other side of them. But now that they're in front of the shop and you're walking towards it, there is a large luminance of light around them. So you could sneak up on them. You could go around the building or something like that, staying out of the way, but you won't be very, very close. Just keep that in mind.
I'll go around the building beyond the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what is Blinder doing?
I'm gonna... Blinder will... Let's see, I'm standing right next to Martin.
Well, that's what had been said originally, but now Martin walked up to the group. So did you continue walking with him, or did you go a different direction?
He's gonna kind of try to angle towards like an alleyway or something like that. That might.
Okay, so sort of the same direction Reaper's going then, or on the opposite side of the street.
She's going on the opposite side of the street. Or...
No, she is circling, not going into the light, and is circling around to the shadows near the alleyway so that she can move around the building. And you had said, I'm going to go to the alleyways in the dark and move around the building. So I was basically saying either you're going with Reaper that direction, or you're going the opposite direction around the other side, which is either one is totally fine.
I'll go around the other side.
Okay, so Reaper moves one way into the darkened alleyway, away and out of the light. Blinder goes the opposite way, once again into the dark and out of the light. What is Carver doing?
Carver is waiting for an opportunity somewhere behind Martin.
So you walked up with him?
Probably not like right up with him, probably kind of slinking in the background. If there is a way for him to kind of conceal himself, he will.
He would have to be like around a corner or something like that, but he could be if he was far enough outside of the light. But like I said, all of you keep this in mind, that in order to engage in the fight, because you're outside of the light radius, it's going to take you a bit of time. So there will be at least a few actions where Martin is there isolated and by himself.
Never mind. Fucking Carver will just walk right up with him.
Okay, so Carver comes,
because if it's an impossibility to think about it and like come and approach it at a tactically advantageous, are our best bet anyway.
No, it is. It's just, I'm just letting you know that it's a ways away, right? So there's no safe median where you're very close but also in the dark, right? Because
it's too much risk versus reward. So just gonna go up numbers.
Okay, sure, totally. So you come walking up. You're walking up with Martin. They all laugh at it. Two of the females are actually watching you, Carver, trying to see what you're all about. The big man comes walking over to Martin, standing over him, just towering over him. He's almost like 2 times the size of Martin. He's just a big dude, just a big dude. He seems like his features are roughly like, you presume, probably Skovlander or something like that. He's just a really big Skovlander. And so, yes, what are you doing?
I'm going to pick up Martin's coat.
Sure.
While I'm doing that, I kind of want to like sleight of hand, like make sure that I'm palming a blade ready to throw.
Okay, go ahead and throw a challenge then. Oh, are you doing it, you said underneath the coat?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm just keeping that in mind. Go ahead and do that. I am going to say that you are a risky standard effect, so it is normal. It's not desperate or anything like that. What's up, Reaper?
Can I change where I'm going and just go walk up directly to them as well?
6'3"?
Yeah, but it's going to take you a second to get there. Because we'll say you walked off into the darkness, and then you were like, maybe I should go back them up. And so you're going to be back there. So we'll say this at least first round of actions happen.
Blinder will... I'm fine. I got this. And keep going the way direction he's going.
He was on the opposite side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Okay, so he's going to stay off behind in the darkness, though. That's his plan? Okay, cool. 6 and a 3? Okay.
Yep.
So full success. To the best of your knowledge, you have palmed a knife underneath Martin's jacket in your hand. Okay.
Okay.
Martin, what would you like to do?
Look him up and down.
Okay.
And then give him a quick, quick diaphragm check.
Okay.
See if I can knock the wind out of him.
Sure.
Not using powers or anything, just skirmish.
Okay. This is going to be a risky action with a weak effect.
Okay. Well, I got a 5.
Okay, mixed success. You punch him, blam, and hit him, and he like takes the shot, and he sort of like lets out a breath, like, and then he starts breathing fine. He's like, and he gives you that face, like, nope, 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 and then he swings back at you.
Yep.
So you would be rolling again for your next action, basically, of what you want to do. Or you can try and like avoid the blow or something like that, because basically you have struck him. He is now swinging back at you.
Right.
So the fight will basically continue, right? So you feel free to roll again, but I want to give the other people in action very quickly. Reaper, did you have something you wanted to do? Did you want to start? You said you wanted to be moving towards the fight now because it seems to be breaking out.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Blinder, are you changing your position or anything like that?
No, he's going to attempt to try to find a door in where the well-dressed man went. Like a back
there's the front door, there's the back door, but the back door is locked.
Is there a window?
Yes, there is a window.
Inside the building, that's easiest. And then he'll try to...
There's not an open window, though.
Yeah. He'll try to open it up somehow. So he'll observe the window for the weak parts and then try to, jimmy it open.
So because you're trying to do it silently, I presume, I will ask for a challenge. If you were just like, if there wasn't a need to be stealthy or you didn't care if people knew you were there, I wouldn't even have you roll. I'd just be like, yeah, sure, totally. But I presume because you're trying to be silent and stealthy, that there should be a challenge of some variety.
Sure. I'll use Tinker.
Oh, sure. Because you understand the way that the doors work and the frames work and things like that, so you're able to apply pressure in such a way to have it be quiet.
It's like, there's a little crack here. Okay.
Yeah.
And,
Sure. Yeah, totally.
Oh, I'm sorry. 3?
Okay. You unlock the window, you open it up, and there's a loud, like, as it just basically slides across the wood, creating this grating noise, but the window is open. It has just produced noise.
Okay.
It's not like a loud bang, but you weren't able to muffle all of the noise, so that if someone was inside or nearby, they probably heard the window open, or at least what the fuck was that kind of thing.
He'll step through and grab like the quickest, sharpest thing that he can find.
So he hops inside. He finds himself in a back sort of supply room. There are bags of things and boxes and things like that, also set and covered by canvas tarps and things of that variety. There's a door leading off towards light, is what it seems like. And there's the back door that you had seen earlier that you had basically come around from to the window.
Sure.
Okay. So Carver, what is Carver doing in this moment?
Carver is going to try to keep an eye on the other 3 that are back behind the big man and make sure that they keep their distance.
There are 4
from this fight. There's 4 of them?
Yeah, there's the big guy that Martin is fighting. There's 4 other people standing there, and there's one guy that walked inside. That you can actually see through the window, like through the big open shop windows. You can see him inside, like standing inside, and it seems like he's doing something. And hasn't quite noticed the noise outside yet.
4 people. Ensure that they keep their distance.
Sure.
If they make a move to go forward, I'm chucking the knife.
Sure. Okay, so with that, we are back to Martin.
Okay. He's swinging at me, and I actually want to try and make it look like he's doing a good job.
Okay.
Like I'm gonna let him tire himself out with punches. Or at least that's the game plan.
Okay. So you're still gonna roll though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because this guy is trying to hurt you, so he's definitely going to do damage to you. And if you're just letting him hit you, it could be very bad for you.
Okay. Well, then I'm gonna attempt to come in with the liver shot knockout.
Okay. Once again, it is a risky, weak effect.
Okay. I got a 5 again. Son of a bitch.
You hit him this time, and he actually like sort of winces from the pain this time, but it doesn't have the full effect that you had hoped it had. And in the same motion that you step over and get him in the liver, he turns and clocks you in the side of the face, like right in the side of your head. You're gonna take 1 condition of rattled, as basically he sort of like knocks, like your eyes go blurry for a second.
Rattled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got it.
Keep in mind, as a reminder for everyone out there, the audience and the cast included, anytime you suffer a negative effect, keep in mind that you can do a resistance roll to say, nope, that didn't happen. It's basically like you can spend your stress to resist effects and certain things like that. So I'm bringing that up now because this is a combat, and the plan for this combat is for it to feel like a fuller, more intense combat with some back and forth and things like that. And so because of that, I wanted to make sure to offer you the opportunity to remember that you could do a resistance roll, spend some stress, and potentially not take that condition.
I don't have a whole lot of stress. Well, how much stress is it? Just 1?
It's
for that?
You lose 6 stress and roll a die. And then whatever you roll is how much stress you don't lose, basically.
Oh, then most definitely I'm gonna try and I got a 6.
Nice. So you lose no stress. You resist the condition, so your hit didn't have the effect you expected it to. You see him moving, and at the last second, you move your head, getting rid of most of the blow and the strength from the hit. You are not rattled because he's not able to make full contact with you, and you end up sidestepping away from most of the power of his blow.
Awesome.
Yeah, so with that, Reaper is now at the fight. What is Reaper doing?
I'm going for the girl with the gun.
Okay. Go ahead and what would you like to do? Are you trying to grapple her, grab her? Are you trying to like jump out at her sort of a thing?
I have a question. I have special ability not to be trifled with. You can push yourself to do one of the following: engage a small gang on equal footing in close combat.
Yes.
So what benefit does that give me?
So you know how I'm telling Martin right now that he has a weak effect every time he tries to fight this guy? That is because he is fighting someone that has outmatched him. And outmatching him has to do with either it's one opponent that is very skilled or very strong or very powerful, or it's a group of enemies that are like outflanking you and outmaneuvering you. And so it ends up decreasing the effect that you have in combat because you're trying to deal with multiple targets at once. So when you activate and use that power, spending the stress for it, it basically is your way of gaining the ability to understand how to fight multiple targets at once. Like you're able to, I need to keep them in front of me. I'm going to use this choke point here to fight all these people. You know, like whatever the tactic may be, which is up to you and the fiction. It just allows you to supersede that sort of penalty that I can apply to the roll for you being outnumbered or outmatched.
I would like to activate that. And how much stress do I have to spend?
I think
2.
There it is, Martin.
Yep, you push yourself.
Yes, and is it for a single action or is it for like a time period? I can't remember.
I don't know.
It says that you can do 1 feat of physical prowess, or engage a small gang on equal footing.
Okay.
So, in that, it says that I can perform a feat of physical force that verges on superhuman. So my ultimate intent is to knock out the girl with the gun. Okay. Not necessarily touch the gun because then they're going to blame me for using the gun, but knock her out.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Should I activate it for that? Maybe?
Sure. It's your choice. So the way that it sounds like is you can activate it to engage a group of combatants at once, and I presume it would last for as long as you're engaged with those combatants.
Okay.
Or it allows you to perform a task that verges on superhuman, meaning that you could bend metal, you could punch concrete. You could, that sort of thing. Also keep in mind that this is considered pushing yourself, which pushing yourself, if you remember correctly, is you spend 2 stress and add +1 die or +1 effect to whatever you're doing. So what you could do is this allows you to engage that way. You could choose to either be engaging the gang, and you would get +1 dice to your action that you're about to do, or +1 effect to knocking this girl out. Or you could do something that verges on the superhuman, meaning that you're going to have even a greater effect for that one punch you're trying to land on the person with the gun to knock them out, etc. Right?
Okay, I'll do that. The superhuman force.
Because you can always reactivate the power. There's nothing that says you can't just keep activating it or as you need to, right? It's just based on how much stress you have.
Stress, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to roll whatever you decide your challenge pool is going to be, whether, skirmish, wreck, whatever the case may be. Whatever you...
I have the same on skirmish and wreck, so I have 3. And then do I add a die?
Yes, because you push yourself, you get to add +1 dice to that.
Okay.
And you are increasing the effect. So the way that will work is that it will take the effect that I name and then increase that. So this would be a risky weak effect. You're going from risky weak to risky standard.
I got 2 6s, a 5, and a 2.
2 6s? That's a crit.
2 6s.
That's a crit.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So with a standard effect, and with a critical thing, using your superhuman ability, you catch her unawares, coming out from behind her. And did you say you wanted to knock her out, or because it could be anything, like maybe you just choke her out, kind of a thing. You just come up behind her and you're like night time. Okay, cool. So you come up behind her, you get the lock engaged. She's like, what the, and then just after a few seconds is just out like a light, hitting the ground. The other person standing next to her is like, what the, didn't even expect you to be coming out of the darkness all of a sudden. I wasn't paying attention. And so at this point, I'm going to move to Blinder. Blinder, you are now inside. You're outside the door that leads into the further section. What are you doing?
Gotta look around for something sharp.
You see on the back that there seems to be some sort of a knife sharpening tool. So like a long, pokey sort of stick, but it's not like sharp like a blade, but it's the end is sharp, somewhat sharp. Okay.
Grab that.
Okay.
No. I'll kick open the door if I can. Well, I'll open the door, actually.
So you open the door, okay.
What do I see?
You see the well-dressed man that I explained before. Not well-dressed, but, better, like well-to-do, stoic man, the slicked black hair, standing there, counting out silver in bags on the counter. And as you swing open the door, he looks up at you and he's like, I thought I heard something. What the fuck? And then what are you doing from there?
Okay, I'm going to. He's like, I'll try stabbing him.
Okay.
I'll be like,
Okay, what are you trying to use to stab him?
Stab.
I mean, what challenge are you going to be using?
He's going to attempt to genuinely skirmish. So I'm not skilled in skirmish.
You're unskilled?
Yeah, I'm unskilled in skirmish. So he's going to generally try to.
So you're just running at him like, ah! Never having used a knife before, really, in your life. I mean, you've used it to cut food and stuff, but you've never fought with a knife.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll push myself.
Okay, because I was about to say it's a desperate action.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So, what does pushing yourself do when you're unskilled?
Because it gives you instead of it being 2 dice, keep the lowest. Instead, gives you 1 dice. So you no longer have to roll 2 dice, keep the lowest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just true rando. That's awesome. Yay! Odds. 3.
Okay. You go running at him, and as you go running at him, he catches your arm, and then punches you right in your sternum, basically knocking the wind out of you. You're like, oh! And he's holding your wrist.
Okay.
I will now be moving to Carver. We're sort of round-robbing our way through this combat real quick. Carver, what are you doing? So Martin is engaged in the fight. Reaper has hopped in and choked someone out. You can see Blinder inside the building engaging in some sort of knife fight array sort of thing going on. What are you doing?
Shit. What does it look like the other, well, now 3 individuals are doing?
They are starting to fight. Like, it seems like they're springing into action. As soon as Reaper popped out of nowhere, they have now gone to engage. So one of them looks like it's the man with the blades. Seems like he's drawing his weapons and heading towards Martin. And then the other woman is looking down at her friend and then quickly pulls out a gun and points it and is pointing it at Reaper. Basically, you can see her drawing the gun towards Reaper.
I'm going to chuck a knife at the one drawing the gun.
Okay.
If I can land the knife like in such a way that it knocks the gun out of the hand. Otherwise, I mean, if it sticks to flesh, it's all good.
Sure. So your hope here is to try and keep her from shooting Reaper.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
You were throwing the knife at the other woman with the gun. Yep. Your hope is to knock the gun out of her hand, or at least keep her from shooting Reaper. So.
And I rolled a 2 and a 6.
2 and a 6, full success. You throw the knife, and it stabs into her hand, and she drops the gun. Basically, like there's this like grip, like and then she drops the gun. And the knife
if she looks at me, I just kind of like looking at her, going like
Okay. You see her reaching, like she's like screaming in pain, but you see her reaching down, like taking action again. Like it seems like she won't go down without a fight, kind of a thing.
I'll also reach back and say I got more where that came from.
Okay. I believe we're back to Martin now. We're going this way. Yep. So back to Martin.
Okay. I might as well. I will push myself to use not to be trifled with.
Okay. 2 stress. How's your stress doing, by the way? I know you.
I am at 8.
8 spent.
8 spent
with the not to be trifled with, or does that put you to 10, or that's what put you to 8?
That put me to 8.
Oh, rough. Okay, gotcha.
But with this one is going to be a quick pap to the forehead, just to get him to rear up. Then I come around behind him, grab him, and then just full out suplex him, hopefully landing his head and shoulders on the ground as to knock him out.
Okay.
With impressive muscular force.
Trying to basically concuss him out or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Cool. So I'm going for greater effect.
Yes. Okay. So that will take you from the risky weak effects up to the standard effect, so you can actually do something. Yeah. Totally.
Getting concussed, foo.
Mm-hmm.
I got a 6 and 2 5s.
Very nice. Full success. You reach over. He's a big guy, but you pick him up and using the fact that even though you are bulky compared to other members in the crew, compared to this guy, you're much smaller and more lithe. So using your much more lithe frame, you squeeze around him, grabbing him, catching him underneath. He doesn't expect it. He's like, what the? And then you just... bam! Right over the top of your head, dropping him to the ground. He hits the head. There's this loud smack as his head hits the ground, and he just lays there. And you can hear him groaning. He's obviously not unconscious, but he definitely seems to be probably concussed.
Okay.
And at least out of it for the moment. And so with that, we will now move to Reaper. Reaper, what are you doing?
I'm going to drop the chick that I just put out, and I'm going to.
I'm presuming you'd already done that, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's sort of in one fluid motion. You knocked her out. You dropped her. The lady next to you pulled out a gun in her left hand. We'll say pulled out a gun to point it at you because she's a few feet away. Carver throws a knife into her hand. She's like, and she reaches down, and what you can see from where you're looking, she's another gun that she's drawing, and she's like turning it like she's gonna fire at Carver.
Okay, I am going to clock her in the jaw and knock her out.
Okay.
I am going to activate Do I have to activate not to be trifled with each time?
Yes, if you're trying to perform a superhuman act. Or engage multiple people all at the same time. And knocking someone out in one fell swoop is sort of a superhuman feat. You know, especially a well-trained, seasoned fighter. Probably won't go down.
Yeah, I'm going to
tap kind of a thing.
I'm going to go ahead and do that for another 2 stress.
Okay. So that will take you from your risky weak to risky standard.
And then that gives me, I'm going to use rec.
Okay.
Let me mute the mic.
We don't mind hearing the dice sound. The dice sound is totally normal. It's just occasional bumps and things that aren't like actual things going on with the game are the only thing that I sometimes worry about.
Like me smacking my
microphone.
Like
him just punching his microphone or whatever he's doing over there.
I got a 6 and a 5.
Very nice. Okay, so you punch her. You're not... She obviously is not knocked out. You don't hear her jaw break or anything like that, but you definitely hit her hard. She goes reeling. Her hand hits the ground with a scream. You see that the knife tip, as she slams, catching herself on the ground, the knife gets jutted back through her hand, so she's this yelp in pain. And with that, we will move to Blinder. Blinder is engaged in a knife fight with a man inside. The man has punched him in the sternum, knocking the wind out of him. Your next action, by the way, Blinder, is going to be a desperate action. That's there's no condition affected by it because the knocking the wind out of you isn't necessarily an ongoing condition, but it's more of something that's going to temporarily affect you. So the next action you're going to perform is a desperate.
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I had weakened.
Yes.
Written on my sheet.
Yes.
So I'm now winded on top of that, or is that like just a?
No, I was just letting you know that instead of giving you another condition of winded, I just simply said that his punch to your sternum is making your roll harder.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. It's like a penalty or something.
Yeah, it's like a temporary penalty, right? Because having the wind knock out of you isn't a long-term effect. It's more of a temporary effect, right?
Okay. He will grab whatever he can that's around, just randomly flailing because he has no idea what he's gonna do.
Okay. And he's just gonna try and smack him with it or something?
We're gonna smack him over the head.
Okay, go ahead and roll.
All right.
Would you like to push yourself again?
Yeah. Okay. So. Yes.
Okay.
We'll push yourself.
Okay.
Hopefully. So it's 1 die?
It gives you +1 die, yes.
Yeah, or unskilled.
Actually, add +1 die. No, the pushing yourself means you don't have to roll the unskilled, remember.
Oh, and I add 1 die?
And add another die on top of that. I'll tell you why here in a second.
5. 5 and 2.
Okay. You reach out in your flailing thing and you find something that feels heavy and weighted. And with all of your strength in your free hand, you swing it at the guy. Something about the thing, it seemed to be some sort of cloth or something, but it had weight to it. In the way of imagining what happens when you put a pool ball inside of a sock and swing it at someone, you smack this guy across the face with what you're now realizing is the coin purse that he had been counting into and out of. And so you literally smack this guy across the face with his own money, sending him reeling from the blow. He no longer has your wrist in his hand and no longer has control over the knife that you had, but he goes falling backwards, clutching his face. You can see that you slammed him across the nose, and his nose is obviously, there's a crunch, and it's broken, and blood is slowly starting to trickle out of it, and he's like looking at you just fire in the eyes, pissed. Okay, with that, we will move on to Carver. Carver, what are you doing?
So the one chick, is she knocked out?
No, she's not out. She just hit the ground pretty hard. You saw at the last moment as Reaper went to punch her, you saw her pull out a gun towards you, Reaper clocked her across the face. She went spinning, smacking her hand on the ground. The knife got pushed out. There was this yelp of pain, and she seems like she's recovering, like trying to get up or move away from Reaper, whatever the case may be. For the moment, it seems like Reaper has her under control. At least that's what you would determine, because Reaper has no wounds on them, is standing over this person. This person's sort of in a bad situation. However, there is the man with the knives I talked about that is moving towards Martin and is actively seeming like he's drawn his blades now and he's coming up behind Martin, because Martin has suplexed the guy and is getting up to his feet, and he is basically sort of ambushing Martin as he's getting up with the knives.
Ooh, knife fight.
Okay. Oh, you're gonna call that guy over?
No,
try to get his attention, or
no.
just jump
Knives
in front
are
of him?
great ranged weapons as well, and people don't
Sure.
realize this.
Sure. So you're gonna throw a knife at him?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab another one from beneath the coat and just whack.
Okay. Go ahead and roll. This is a risky weak effect roll.
Risky weak effect. So that would. What does that do to my roll?
It just means that based on what you get, the effect is either greater or worse, more or less. So do your roll as normal, and then basically the weak. So the risky is the position. The effect is how well your action succeeds, in a sense, right? So based upon what you roll is we'll see how well that does, right?
I really don't want Martin to get hurt. Can I take stress to do something about that?
Yes, you can spend 2 stress and give yourself +1 die.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. What challenge have you decided to use?
I've decided to use skirmish.
Okay, cool.
That is 2 6s and a 2.
Oh, damn. A critical success. So
Dude, these dice are amazing.
Yeah, so you throw the knife at this guy. There's a moment where you see him react to your motion, and it seems like he's turning and trying to deflect it, but he doesn't deflect it in time, and the knife catches him right in the shoulder. Just right into the side of the shoulder. Just he reaches up at himself with the shoulder, and then like is reaching towards the knife to see what it is, and then he's just like, he looks at you, and with his free hand he turns and he starts coming towards you, and he flicks his wrist as he's walking towards you, like he's throwing a knife back at you, basically. So with that, we will move on to Martin. Martin, you have just gotten up from suplexing this guy. You saw a man coming at you with a knife. He was like 6 feet-ish away from you. And then a knife flies out of nowhere from the other side of the bout, stabbing into his shoulder. He swiftly turns on his heels and is now heading towards Carver, where you presume the knife might have come from. There is one person on the ground of the 2 women that is completely unconscious. The other one is now getting up to their feet. There is a man inside still engaged in a fight with Blinder. And the big man, at least for the time being, seems to be out of it. What are you doing? You're muted right now.
I said awesome.
Okay.
Let's see. I would like to run up to the one with the knife.
Okay.
Go up to the one with the knife, and whatever hand has the bigger of the 2 knives in.
Okay.
Try and disarm that knife.
Sure. That's the side where the knife is in his shoulder.
Okay.
He's this big, like, cleaver-looking thing. Like it's meant for chopping. Yeah, sure.
Yep. Just go ahead and I'll try and disarm him of that.
Okay.
With skirmish again.
Yep.
Hey, we got a 6 again.
Nice.
6, 3, 2.
And you're not spending the 2 stress to do the thing?
I am not. No.
Okay. So weak effect, full success. You end up grabbing his wrist with the knife in it and starting to flip the knife out of his hand, but he gives away from it and turns to face you now with the other blade.
Oh shit, he's got 2.
Yeah. Okay. Reaper.
She's starting to get back on her feet.
Yes, she's slowly starting to get up. She
Going
reaches
to-
over very quickly as you see her getting up. She reaches over, pulls the knife the rest of the way out of her hand, and then gets up with the knife in her hand, and like it's coming like towards you now, basically.
Okay, I'm going to try to side.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm gonna try to sideswipe her a little bit and just punch her again in the jaw.
Okay.
With the opposite hand, so she doesn't see it coming.
Sure.
I'm gonna use wreck, and I'm not spending for not to be trifled with yet.
Sure.
And I have a question. There is 3 engaged. Right? 1, 2, 3. And is there 3 down? Because there was 6 people altogether, right?
1 is completely unconscious. 2 is 1 is concussed. 1 is inside finding Blighter. 1 is currently engaged with Martin and Carver. And there's this chick that's getting back up.
Okay. Oh, 2 6s and a 1.
A crit again?
Yep.
Holy moly.
Whoop, whoop,
So
whoop, whoop.
you cracked her to the ground. She gets up, pulling the knife out of her hand. She turns at you with the knife, and then with the other hand, you just blap right on the face, giving her sort of this fading shot, and it just catches her at the right angle, and then you finally hear the crack. You presume you might have probably fractured her jaw or something like that, like lightly, and then that hit was enough to break the rest of the force. There's this crack in her jaw, her eyes go wide, and then she just sinks into blackness. You presume she falls unconscious, hitting the ground. Blap.
Good night.
Yeah. So now 2 are unconscious.
You ready to go night-night?
Why do you think they call me Reaper?
So, Blinder.
Should have called you Lunesta.
Ambien.
So the guy's holding his nose.
Yeah.
Right. Blinder holding. It's a sack of coins.
It's a sack of silver, yes.
Sack of silver.
Screw the rules. He has money.
He's gonna quickly assess the weight.
Okay.
Right. Rough weight, and do some math. And then be like, okay, 67 pounds in square inch velocity, and then throw the sack of coins, trying to basically hit him in the sternum.
Trying to slingshot it towards him.
Yeah, trying to slingshot it in the area that will take him, that will basically crush the clavicle or the center bone.
Sternum.
Sternum.
Breastplate.
He'd be like, okay, this much pound of pressure.
Sure.
I would like to use study.
Okay. Okay.
He's studying his way out of this one, boys.
You've explained in the fiction well enough that it makes perfect sense. This is a reasonable action to take.
Okay.
It is a standard action with weak effect.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will push myself.
Okay.
Just cause. 6, 5, and a 2.
6, 5, and a 2. Full success. You're like, and then it just goes flying. There's this moment where you watch it flying towards him, that sort of like bullet time for a second, where you can see from your perspective it flying towards him. It catches him. He's oh, from the force. You hear all of the breath basically leaving his lungs. Just, and he just falls backwards, slamming his head on the ground from the force knocking him backwards and losing all the air in his lungs. He hits his head on a counter and then hits his head on the ground and is unconscious, presumably. Potentially even might have cracked his head open because there seems to be blood trickling down from it as he's laying on the ground.
Look at him as like, we might have to count you out.
Oh.
If the hit didn't kill him, that frickin' joke killed him.
Yeah.
Okay.
He
We
did
move
us
on to
all
Carver.
dirty.
Props.
We move on to Carver, where there is one
Props for
remaining
that one.
combatant at this point. He is engaged with Martin and Carver. He assesses the situation and sees everything that's going on around him, realizing that everybody but him is on the ground. He, holding his knife out, slowly is trying to get you both on one side, as though he's in a capable combatant. He understands where the strengths and weaknesses lie in this engagement. And then once he's taken a few steps slowly, you're sort of circling around him. He cuts and runs. Just sprinting down the street as fast as he can. Yes, Reaper.
I will, the minute he starts cutting to run, I'm going to start chasing his ass down.
Okay. Martin.
If it doesn't look like she's going to be able to catch him, I would like to, is there a heavy throwable object nearby?
Maybe
like a good sized rock.
The guns on the ground, one of the knives and varying people. I mean, yeah.
Touch the gun.
It's a cobblestone road. There's not really there's loose bits of cobblestone, but it's nothing big.
Right. Never mind.
Okay.
So,
what?
Need to start carrying baseballs.
Oh, you're inside though, so you won't probably really be able to act because he's sort of disappearing out of your line of sight.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything.
Okay. Carver, did you have something you were gonna do?
Yeah. My last knife is my big giant ass cleaver.
Okay.
And I would like to throw the sumbitch.
Okay. He is a moving target, so I'm going to say this. You're no longer in a weak position because of the fact that you are no longer outnumbered. He is running, so you will have standard effect, but I'm going to let you know that because he is trying to sprint away from you and he is darting off into an alleyway, it will be a desperate throw. But because it is your biggest knife, I'll actually say it has increased effect. Because
that is a 4 and a 5.
4 and a 5, mixed success. You huck the knife, the giant cleaver. It sails through the air. Reaper, as you're chasing after him, this knife goes sailing over your shoulder. And you see it cut basically across his leg. And there's blood that goes spurting out as this huge gaping wound gets cut into the back of his calf. And he immediately crumples and hits the ground. And as he hits the ground, he's trying to catch himself and turn towards your oncoming advance as he pulls a knife and lands on his back. But you can see that he is messed up from that giant blade slamming into his leg.
I really didn't want it to come to this.
So he doesn't.
You're still a ways away, Carver. He made it to the alleyway. Reaper's right behind him because she went sprinting after him. That's why I said it was a desperate roll, because there's sort of that Hail Mary throw, So Reaper, you're the first.
So he looks like he can't move, right? It doesn't look from the wound that he can move.
It looks like he can't move on that foot or leg. Like he would have to hop or something. But he lost his balance because it happened out of nowhere and he smacked and hit the ground. He's recovering because he hears your footsteps coming up behind him. And, knowing that if someone's approaching you from behind, your safest position usually, if you're prone on the ground, is to actually be on your back, especially with a weapon or something, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to clock him in the jaw and put him night-night.
So you're just going to try to come right up over the top of him and just slam him in the face? Okay.
Yeah. And I am going to do it with force. I am going to push myself. It'll be the last 2 stress I can use, and then I'll be at 10 stress.
Okay.
A 6, a 3, a 2, and a 1.
Okay, so you jump on top of him and just punch him in the face. He gets knocked. You hear his head hit the ground. He's dazed. He's obviously not unconscious. He's dazed, and he's trying to still fight at you. The blade is still wild as he's trying to push you back, and you're sort of standing over him in this, you're holding away the knife or trying to push it away while you punched him in the face.
Yeah.
At this point, rather than drag out and make more and more challenges take place, I will say that basically in this, for those of you that walk around the alleyway and see this, there's this Reaper holding this guy down and then just basically repeatedly punches him until he finally falls unconscious. Is that appropriate to what Reaper would do? Yeah. Repeating punches. There's this crack of bone, eventually blood on her knuckles. It is sort of a frightening sight in the silhouette of the alleyway, the dimmer sisters, the moon set far above. Reaper just standing powerful over this man, just beating him into absolute unconsciousness. All of you at this point are able to take a moment and see the destruction laid out around you. You may not have intended it to go this way, but most of these people are harmed in ways that may end up affecting them for the rest of their lives. Some of them may be only flesh wounds, temporarily unconscious, whatever the case may be. But a few of them have been wounded very badly. None of them, however, seem to be dead, though. You do not hear the bells of the Bellwether Crematorium dinging. You do not hear the sound of the crows. At least for the time being, in the current situation you're in, for the next few minutes, whatever the case may be, these people have not died. And I think that's where we're going to leave tonight's game.